So I'll go ahead and call us to order at 6 o'clock. We have everyone who is a board member present, correct? We've got Adrian online, so I don't think we. Oh, she is also online. Hi, Adrian. Good to see you. We've got everyone here in person. Excellent. So the first order of business is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
I have two things on the agenda. One is a deletion. It is under 7B, here community member complaint. That's the complaint about the town having the Chester Telegraph as one of its official papers. That has nothing to do with this board. We don't think that the town paper and our opinion is irrelevant. That was done by the select board, and if there's a complaint, it should go to the select board. There's nothing we can do about it.
So we also have the Chester Telegraph as a paper of record, and so there's a complaint about that.
Isn't that because the town shows it for both of us?
No, the board actually too.
Okay,
So
I stand corrected. Thank you. Yes, I thought that was all done.
no worries.
Okay.
And the second thing?
Well, the other thing is that I'd like to, instead of eliminating anything, to rearrange this a little. Because we don't get to the budget, I think it's a real priority today, until number 7, new business, and it's a long way down. We have a lot of people here that I think are going to make public comments. Most likely about the budget and not all of the reports and the other matters that proceeded. So I think I'd just like to move 7A up to after the student reports, which is 6. 6, oh no, 8A, I'm sorry.
Okay, with that one, just because it's also a complicated agenda, how about a motion to amend? It'll just need a majority, but then we can vote on the whole agenda separate.
I move that we amend the order of the agenda to address section 8A, the GMUSD budget, after we have completed section 6A, student reports.
And is there a second?
I'll second it, so we can have a discussion.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I feel like, I mean, moving it earlier seems reasonable, but finding where it would go in earlier, that seems like a challenging one.
Oh, I agree. It's quite a complex agenda today.
And I feel like that. And this maybe it does feel like that kind of a. But that also feels like that's kind of our priority. Well, right? Yeah. Instead, moving it after administrative.
The only thing I would question is, are we gonna have the public speaking then, or are they gonna speak when they have a chance to do a public comment?
Yeah, this would still be after that first public comment.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Right, but what I'm saying is,
Yep.
while we're having a discussion about the budget, it doesn't say anything about having the public speak.
Yeah.
They should have already spoken,
That's right.
so there's no need to move it. We're the only ones gonna be discussing it at that point.
Got it.
What if we took out all of old business since tonight is a very lengthy night? Table.
I agree.
I don't see anything overly pressing in it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of business from the previous.
I know,
meeting as
I know.
well, So at some point, we're gonna have to get.
That's, well, next,
Yep.
I mean, budget is important, I think.
Jerry is making a Motion.
Yeah,
I moved to table old business.
I will second that.
hold on.
Sorry.
So we do have the first motion to deal with first.
Okay.
You could move to amend that motion, or we can vote on that one and then have another one.
Can I simply withdraw that one?
Sure.
Then I
Yeah.
do withdraw the motion to change the order.
Okay. And so this would be keeping, your motion, Jerry, is keep everything in order, but to take everything under old business and table.
Correct.
And Lois has seconded
second.
that. Any discussion on that?
And I just, we need that third number of the, support staff bargaining committee.
Yep.
We got just that.
And we also need a,
Maybe we'll do a line item to move, thanks.
so that is A and B.
I would move to table all old business except for A.
Okay, and I'll say.
And leave it in the
Leave it.
order it's in.
Yep.
Any discussion on that? This is to table C through J of old business. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We,
Does that mean you should do a roll call?
When you're on person.
Yeah, because I also had it, so I just didn't want to make sure that it's not, we're not approving the agenda, so.
That's correct. Yeah, so we have an amended agenda, but we haven't approved that yet. Adrian?
And then I had just wanted to ask that we delete under your announcements, the invitation to deep breathe. While I understand the sentiment kind of infantilizes the board, I mean, this is a public document, so I get what you're trying to do, but it's not professional. So if you'd like to maybe do something like that before or after the meeting, but I don't think should try to be.
Okay. We'll take that as a motion. That would be to delete 3A, the invitation to deep rest. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It was also raised to potentially move the student reports before the first public comment. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I move that that's before. First public comment.
I'll second.
Any discussion of that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we have an amended agenda where we have taken out 3A. We have moved 6A before public comment. We have tabled old business C through J. And no other changes. Are there other requests? Okay, then is there a move to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll go sure to approve the agenda as a matter.
Second. That was seconded by Penny. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Excellent. So that takes us to chair announcements. So I'd just like to offer my appreciation and our appreciation to several previous board members, not all of whom we got to send off. So that includes Rick Alexander, Jeff Hance, Scott Kendall, Casey Leahy, and Kate Lampreer.
Progress.
So thank you to all of you for your service, some of which was for a very long time. I appreciate that. And then also just a quick welcome, which we also haven't gotten a chance to do yet, to our new board members, Penny Benelli, Ann Henshaw, Shayna Kalnitsky, Caitlin Miller, mess up on the easy one, and Mike Ripley. Thank you all for being here and for your service on the board. And you know, while we're at it, Katie, Donovan, Lois, Jerry, Adrian, thank you for being here and for your continued service. I will keep this super short in terms of intention with leadership, but I am really wanting to have this be a collaborative process in terms of decision making. And also to move towards consensus building, even though we certainly can't always actually reach consensus. Both of those things are slow. And so I am also asking for your input, both after meetings, but also in the actual meetings about whether we would like to be moving faster or slower. My tendency will be to let people keep talking and to take that extra pause before we go from discussion to voting. But it's definitely a possibility to go faster if that's what we want. For input during the meeting, there are three pretty straightforward motions that you can make that you don't even have to have the floor before you make them. One of those is a point of order. And you can either have something specific like point of order, we have a motion on the table, so let's only discuss that, or a really general one like point of order, we want to follow Robert's rules exactly. And that will be a challenge for all of us, I think, but we can make it happen. It's also possible to make a inquiry, a process inquiry. So if you don't know how to make that point of order or how to ask for a recess, you can make that inquiry and we can help you with that part of the process. And you can also make a motion to recess. And so you can share a reason for that. It does have to be seconded and voted on, but you don't have to share a reason. You can need a bathroom break or want to look up some information or talk to somebody about something, and all those things are fine. So with that said, I would love to get some input on the kind of board input on meeting length and additional meetings. We've had a whole lot of those. We have the option of setting a time that we will adjourn at a certain time, no matter what. But of course, we do have things that can't necessarily wait a month. And so that would then mean needing special meetings to make up for that.
Yes, discussion. Well, I would hope that we keep things moving and don't. Oh, I want open discussion. I want everybody to be heard, but I think that we should all try to agree. When the meeting goes on too long, we lose people's attention and they can't, it's not as productive. I am again hopeful that all of these people coming to the meetings will continue, and so that we'll have more public comments time. So we want to keep our meetings as brief as possible so we can allow the public to speak as well.
All right, well, if there are other thoughts, feel free to share them at other times as well.
I would love to end meetings by 8 o'clock. Listen, I get up.
You go to work at 3.
Well, 3 a.m. comes really fast.
Is there a way to do that where we can have like an extreme circumstance where say we have to live with her? Is that like the standard?
Yeah.
But you know, obviously, you know. Just so with that, in terms of accessibility, I think if we are trying to increase community engagement, anything over 200. It can also affect, I think, our ability in terms of stamina of being able to stay dialed in. Everybody's-
I would add that, it's hard to put a limit that would be consistent because you don't know the important topics that might need to be discussed and how thoroughly as such. But I wonder as we get a little more acclimated to the board meetings, we take a look at what reports could be a written report in the agenda as opposed to a lengthy presentation. And maybe there's a schedule of topics that we agree upon so that we can keep it contained where it doesn't impact the work.
I mean, we used to have to remind me this exam.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there are various times of the year where we're having a meeting once a month, is plenty of time, plenty. But there are times during the month, let's say during the budget season, or let's say the budget gets voted down and you have to have a bunch of meetings about it, where maybe having 2 meetings a month because during the summer, well, the board hasn't traditionally met very often. So there are certain times of the year where we don't have to, but certain times of the year where we're gonna have to double up. So rather than having an agenda that's 2 pages long and you're gonna keep us here till 10 o'clock, which that's what it does, that's our job. Spread it out over a couple of days, but then the public will know that we're going to address, the old business later, or, do other things at a date in between, so we're on the first of the month. The month behind.
I like that. That makes sense.
That way we can keep time down, but we're just gonna have to spend more day.
I mean, other more days than late nights.
Yeah, I'm a fan of an extra meeting.
Yes.
All right, well, maybe we can come back to this discussion then when we are setting that next meeting, knowing that we may not be through everything even that is still on the agenda. So we can have a time where we go back, consider that, and see if we could potentially set an additional meeting if we're there. Anything else? Okay. The next piece would be approval of the minutes. We have several of those from the special meetings, but there is also an item under this about discussing the process timeline and how much narrative to include. So there are some items in the minutes that would need to be corrected, that are just errors. And rather than going through all of those tonight, if we could talk about what that process, timeline, and narrative could look like. We could also give an opportunity then to go back to the recordings and have these previous meeting minutes meet that as well. Is that?
Yeah, what I might recommend is if that's going to be the process is just email Sophie what the corrections are. She can, make the text, and then the next meeting we can bring it.
Would we do that? And how would we do that? Would we send individually? corrections to it, or
Either that,
send
you
it
can send it to me, or you can send it to City. I'll give them a heads up when it's about if you get some.
Okay.
She's been doing a pretty good job. You guys have made some complicated meetings, but trying to keep up with the minutes.
Very true, and for not knowing all of us and having people change as well.
It's very different than the old one, so it. At first, it just struck me, and I mean, it's much easier to go through it, but it's very different than what we used to.
Yeah.
So it will take us a little while. For those of you who are new, it won't be as difficult for those of us who are used to more verbatim kinds of.
Amber.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yes, it's a lot quicker.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think kind of the minimum things would be the wording of the motion
Right.
and what was approved,
Exactly.
who was here. Are there other things that we want to be asking for in these minutes? Do we want summaries of discussion and public comment, for example?
I think that's a good idea. I really like seeing but summaries, not a transcript.
Sure.
Something that gives you but this is what was discussed and then that's what was decided. And I think it's really good to have the public comments on the record.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think for transparency, for someone who's not able to come to the meeting, from the public and who's able to kind of get, go and look at the minutes and able to kind of get and look at what he's done. And maybe they don't have time to watch the recording either. So, you know, a good capture, but obviously we have to assess it outside of what's required. But spreading the between requirements, but also giving people an accurate takeaway what the meeting was like.
So I can also summarize these as suggestions and bring it back as something the board can actually vote on, as well as we can send specific corrections about the past ones to Sydney, and then come back to these at our next meeting. Okay. That brings Sophie. Oh, no, the
If we see corrections, we're like, hey,
corrections send to Sydney
okay.
that can be put together as opposed to a bunch of different people sending to Sydney.
And that way he's got a heads up of, yeah, I'm expecting these minutes back, so because I
Okay.
can update them.
All right, that brings us to consideration of amending minutes of January 15th, 2026. This came up previously and we decided the board needed an opportunity to actually watch those videos. It's also the case that a lot of people who are here now were not at that meeting. That doesn't disqualify you from voting if you have done the if you've done your research, nor does it mean if you were here that you would necessarily choose to vote if you haven't. Would you like to say anything, Donovan?
No, if there are any questions, I guess, but otherwise it's all in.
Hi, could you refresh me on your intention?
The original minutes just didn't capture the conversation. They didn't reflect the conversation accurately.
Sorry, I guess I need a little more context on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's all written, I guess, you know, as it starts out.
I know I read it, I mean, like,
Right, I mean, so I guess maybe I'm not understanding, but the context is there, the changes. I just don't understand what you're.
are you looking for verbatim? Or were you trying to summarize, or did you not like how it sounded?
It didn't accurately reflect the conversation, so I wanted it to accurately reflect the conversation.
So are you looking for verbatim? Verbatim. Okay, is this verbatim? Or is this a summary?
It is a summary. I put it into a similar style as, you know, the rest of the minutes that Amber did.
So what's your intention? Do you want verbatim or do you want a summary?
I would like the text that I have added in red to replace the line strike items.
I agree, Adrian. I'm trying to understand that as well. Like what it is what's stricken out is what's verbatim. Or is what's read verbatim, or like what is any more context? Like
The line strike items are the original minutes, so they're line stricken to in case I would remove them, and I would replace them with the red text.
and the red text, is that verbatim?
I-
Or
I'd say
is the straight
summary,
the strikes
you know,
verbatim? What the question is?
like any of them are exact quotes. That's what we're getting at.
No, I think we're trying to figure out what you're getting at. Like, do you just not like how it was summarized? And you're re-summarizing it? Is there an inaccuracy?
I feel like this is going in circles at this point. I'm not really sure.
You're not answering it. Like, you're not giving the answer that we're looking for.
That's the answer that I have. I don't know what else to add to that.
Okay.
Well, then I would say no.
Go ahead.
I wasn't at the meeting. I did go back and watch it. I read the comments in the minutes. That the original language of the minutes and the language that Donovan had substituted. And I agree with him that the language he substituted better states what the comments were. It's talking about what he said at that meeting. And I watched it, and that summary that he put in is a better, more accurate reflection of what he said. Neither one is verbatim. They're both a summary of what was said, which absolutely, they have to be. Nobody's going to put a transcript in it, would be draconian. But his summary is truly more accurate than the one that was in it. But I watch the action of that meeting.
I mean, having been at the meeting, I feel like one is just more,
Well, because I wasn't at the meeting, I did do the research. So,
having been at the meeting, I did feel like it reflected it, and I think honestly, this feels like feelings. Excuse me, I have terrible allergies. I don't know, like, I hate to say like your feelings were hurt or you didn't like how something sounded. I guess that's the best way. I'm reading this.
And I guess the way I feel is that, this is back in January. And here we are in April. So maybe going forward, as we're going to discuss what we want in the minutes, we focus on that instead of looking backwards. Let's keep moving forward and.
I also like what we're doing with the new meeting minutes, so I think it's gonna be a lot less, option or opportunity for this. That's all I had. I just was not clear on the intention at all.
So what we would need at this point is a motion to amend the minutes. And that should include a statement that what is in there is not representative of what happened. If that is your intention, or there could not be a motion.
I would move to keep the minutes as written
Okay,
and place guidelines of what you want reflected going forward.
Second.
and that was seconded by Jerry. Is there any discussion of the motion on the table to keep the minutes as written? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
nay.
Okay, let's do a roll call on that one. Penny Benelli. So that was no. Sorry.
That's all.
Anne Hinshaw.
I'm saying,
Yes.
it's not a meeting.
Yep. Shayna Kalinsky,
I'm abstaining from not being at that meeting.
Caitlin Miller,
Abstain.
Katie Murphy,
Yes.
Donovan Nichols,
No.
Lois Perla,
Yes.
Mike Ripley,
No.
Jerry Busey,
Yes.
and Adrian Williams.
Yes.
So we have 4 yeses to keep the minutes the same as they are, and 3 noes. However, I can vote on this one, and I will. I'm going to vote no. And that makes it a tie 3-3, and so that motion does not carry.
4-4.
4-4.
4-4. Thank you for that correction. Are there other motions related to this issue?
Can I move forward and like get things that are more important than looking at minutes from January?
You can. Yes.
Yeah, Is that a motion or a new motion or? Did I have to wait?
Is it?
Want to do what we're here to do and not focus on what's happened in January and how words are. I mean, we have a very full agenda. We have students waiting and we're gonna sit and pick apart minutes from January instead of this is what we expect going forward. Let's go forward.
I also think it's important that we listen to each other and do what we can to collaborate, and that we will do better making decisions on things like the budget if we're willing to.
Exactly. So that's what
Compromise
we're
and-
expecting going forward. Do you know what I mean? Like, I totally respect what everybody has to say. We're all a part of the team here. We're supposed to be. But when we're spending so much time in the past looking at these minutes to determine whether they're reflective enough of what somebody said, I mean, are we gonna go back and hit every meeting then to determine if Adrian, your words were hit perfectly, you know, Lois, me, Jerry?
It just seems like this is a pattern of spending a lot of time on things that we should be putting our energy towards more. So
I move that we don't spend a lot of time, but that we amend the minutes to reflect the language that Donovan has proposed, that does accurately reflect what was said at the meeting. And I do think it's important, just to be accurate. It's important that our statements, if they are in the minutes, be accurate. And I'm assuming we're not going to have one in there from that line, which will make it easier, but that doesn't excuse not fixing an error that happened before. And it shouldn't take very long because we've already done those discussions.
The motion already happened and vote.
So there was a motion to keep the minutes as they were. That's correct. And now there is a motion to amend the minutes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there discussion specifically of that motion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
My understanding of that is that it was 3-4. Is that correct? Let's do the roll call, sorry. This is the motion to amend the minutes. Penny Benelli?
Aye.
Ann Hinshaw?
This is still a meeting that I was not in attendance.
Abstain. Correct. Yeah. Shayna?
I say nay because we need to move on.
Caitlin Miller?
Abstain.
Katie Murphy?
Nay.
Donovan Nichols?
Yes.
Lois Perla? Mike Ripley?
Yes.
Jerry Usey?
Yay.
And Adrian Williams. Okay, that is a vote of 3-4. So in that case, my vote would not make a difference. And so that motion fails. And that brings us to public comment.
You're going for
Oh, yes, thank you. That brings us to our student reports. Thank you for being here. And you have the floor.
Recently, a group of students got to go to the Castleton College and Career Pathways event, which was super beneficial for our sophomore and junior students to get some insight into college decision making and effect. Overall, that was just a really great opportunity presented for our students. Spring sports are also underway and very successfully at that. The community dialogue night last month was very well for the leadership club. There was lots of great ideas started out and parents willing to help. And so we're making a lot of developments for our student body. And today they started cleaning out a band closet, which they are turning into a resources closet for students that need hygiene products, snacks, stuff like that. And lastly, spring testing is now completed. So students have taken the state tests and freshmen and sophomores have done their PSATs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you also be able to tell us just a little bit more about that, the leadership club and the dialogue night, and like who was speaking and part of that?
So we pretty much have a leadership club. I went over it last time. Pretty much just a group of students in our school with leadership qualities who want to make change. We went over some data and we made some conclusions, and so we've been trying to put into action some of these ideas that we've come up with. And that was just an opportunity to get the public's idea and ideas from parents and female students, but mostly just the students presenting.
How did you gather your data?
It was from, I don't know what the test is exactly called, but it's pretty much just a survey that kids take every year. I think there's a few, but one of them just like the data and got to see things about drug use and stuff like that about our school and draw some conclusions about it.
Great, it's risk behavior survey.
Yes.
Risk behavior survey that all students take every year.
We went to the get to know.
And they went to a training, getting to whys that helped them plan and do this event. So they hope that next time it's better attended by community members. But they made some really strong and quick strides. So it's pretty awesome.
How did you go about inviting community?
I think there was a lot of posters put out around school. I think students told their parents and such, but maybe a few emails were sent out. I'm not actually sure. But our coordinator for the group tried to voice it as much as possible.
They put it out on social media. And then Chester, Vermont one gets a lot of people in town.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good job.
Thank you very much, and you are free to go if you'd like to, but you're also very welcome to stay. And that does bring us to the first public comment. It is, if you are online, please raise your hand. If you're in the room, you're welcome to step up to the podium. While you are at the podium, please also write your name and town as well as starting your comment with that.
Good evening. I'm Daryl Kale, the Flexible Pathways Coordinator here at GM. I love my job and I hope to continue doing it. I recognize that change has to happen and that some budget adjustments and staffing reductions may be part of that process. I also understand that many people in this community are concerned about rising taxes, and I understand the pressure the district faces as Vermont continues implementing changes under Act 70. But when conversations about school budgets become driven by fear, it may become easy to treat staffing cuts as the quickest solution without fully considering whether those cuts create meaningful relief to taxpayers, especially when larger class sizes and greater efficiency are already being expected under the direction of the state. There is a difference between gradually improving efficiency and creating sudden changes that dramatically increase classroom sizes all at once. One allows schools to adapt. The other can immediately change the learning environment for students and teachers. Schools are not just a line item in a budget. They are built on relationships between students and teachers, families and staff, and the people who create stability every day. Those relationships are often what help students feel safe enough to learn. Large sudden changes do not simply reduce expenses. They can fracture the trust and connections that hold a school together while reshaping a school community in ways that cannot easily be repaired. And while there have been opportunities for people to speak, being given time to speak is not always the same as having enough time for voices to be truly considered before decisions are made. We may not be able to change where we are today, but we can decide how we move forward from here. The strongest path forward is one built through partnerships between the board, administration, teachers, students, families, and the community. Because the goal is not simply to reduce a number on a budget sheet. The goal is student success and the long-term value those students bring back to this community. I ask that we move forward with partnership instead of fear, and with decisions that truly benefit all of us. And just to be clear, I hope you choose to put forward the same budget. Thank you. I have a student that has given me something to read. May I read it?
Yes.
Hello, my name is M. Louise Martin. I'm a senior at Green Mountain and a resident of Chester, Vermont. I began here my freshman year, and I will graduate this June. I have attended several schools, including a behavioral management school. Since arriving at Green Mountain, I have been removed from the emotional disturbance list, grown as a student, and found a family in my peers and educators. Today, I want to ask a simple question. Where does education begin? It does not begin in a department or a policy. It begins in a classroom with a teacher who shows up every day to support students, teach lessons, and provide stability in ways that go far beyond academics. And right now, those people are being treated as expendable. We're being told that staffing cuts are necessary for the budget, but removing teachers is not just a financial decision. It means larger classes, less individual support, and students who are more likely to fall through the cracks, especially those who already depend on consistent adult guidance. For many students, teachers are the difference between disengagement and success, between struggling alone and having someone who notices. We understand that difficult decisions have to be made, but it matters deeply that those decisions are fully understood, fully explored, and clearly communicated. From a student perspective, it has not always felt like every option was fully examined before reaching this point. We are not asking for easy choices. We're asking for thoughtful ones, because when a teacher leaves, it is not just a position that disappears. It's trust, relationships, and years of dedication to students in this building. So I will end where I began. Where does our education begin? Thank you for your time.
Bear with me, this is my first time doing this.
You've done it here.
Hello, my name is Natalia Benich. I'm a junior here at Green Mountain and a Cavendish resident. And if it matters, I don't pay taxes. Not Yes, thank you. I'm speaking tonight because the decisions you make about our district's budget does not just stay in spreadsheets. It shows in our classrooms, our opportunities, and our futures. If we cannot pass the budget and have to make cuts or stretch our budget too thin, students will notice immediately. Class sizes will get bigger, which I understand is a thing that is wanted. But in such a rural area, this is extremely hard. This school is known for its small class sizes, and that's the reason that draws people in. They know that students can get the individual help they deserve and need. As well, course options will get slimmer, and programs that keep your students engaged, things like arts and PE, that give students a break, will also be things that go first. For many of us, these programs are not just optional. They are the reason we come to school, the places we find our confidence, and the paths that help us discover who we are and who we want to be in this world. And to the parents here tonight, this affects you just as much as it affects us. You want your children to be supported, challenged, and prepared for what comes next. You want them in a school where they can be motivated and safe, seen, and valid. Those outcomes depend on the choices being made in this room. I understand budgets include sacrifices, but from the bottom of my heart, I urge you to think very, very carefully about what is essential to your students. Cutting opportunities today may save money in the short-term future, but it costs your students motivation, engagement, and their sense of belonging. Investing in teachers, maintaining manageable class sizes, and protecting students' programs is not optional. That is the foundation to a strong education. This isn't just about funding our schools, it's also about deciding what type of community we want to be. Do we want to be the community that invests in our students, or one that asks them to do more with less each year? Please choose to invest in us. We are the future. Thank you.
Please.
I'm not a resident, so I don't pay taxes, but I am a teacher, so hopefully that's still permissible to speak. I'll write my name here.
It's a long name.
My wife took it, so credit to her. Okay. So on Monday, a teacher asked about early retirement, and Superintendent Millington said that would have to be in the bargaining agreement. I'm wondering how many of the association's early retirement proposals from the last round of negotiations the board entertained or countered offered. Back to response that the association tried numerous times to get early retirement into the master agreement. We cite hypothetical scenarios that ended up coming to fruition. We actually gave the exact Act 73 scenario that was in the superintendent's recommendations from Monday. If it was always going to be in the superintendent's recommendations to make RIFs to comply with Act 73, then why wasn't early retirement an option, knowing it could have been a lifeline to keep new and invested educators? I worry this speaks to the theme of community that we heard Monday. Are individuals at the table aware of what takes place at GM? As a teacher, I have seldom seen board members or the superintendent walking through classrooms or talking with students. Listening to you all speak about education reminds me of one of my favorite poems by Walt Whitman, The Learned Astronomer. Like Whitman, I grow tired and sick listening to you all speak of data and theories on education. It is my opinion that Monday's recommendations were made without having a clear picture of what we do here and the impact of those recommendations, but simply the data of classroom size. I want to continue to advocate, as I have in the past, for everyone at the table to come walk, or as Whitman would say, rise and glide, through our building wellness space. Ask students what they like, hate, or need, all to remind us who we truly work for. So from time to time, we can look up in perfect silence at learning. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen Bell. I'm the in-school suspension coordinator. ISS, as it's otherwise known. I am a resident in Chester. I have grandchildren that have attended all the schools, some graduated, some haven't. But I really, what I wanted to say tonight is to put a little bit of a view into what I do. And the important. I think there's a lot of people who can't see me in my room because there's no windows. It's just a little bitty room. And I sit in there with students off and on during the day, not all sent to ISS. Some have elected to come to ISS because they need a chance to vocalize what's going on with them. And it's a quiet space. They can do that safely. I also like to work collaboratively with my peers. So if a student needs more than that, they can go to guidance, they can go to wellness, maybe just talking with an individual teacher about an idea that a student had that might make it possible for them to sit through a class. There's a lot of conversation. Sometimes the kids are sent to me by admin, broadly, Miss Leith, and they have a slip of paper that says, this is what happened, and this is why we're sending them. There's no really big suggestion on what the consequences could be. But Mr. Broadley, Miss Leith always let me know, how long do you want them in here and what is it you want us to work on? That gives me an opportunity to let them come in, sit down, kind of spout out whatever the problem is, their side of the story, their opinion, and consider what they're telling me as opposed to what the teachers told. Now, I don't believe there's a whole lot of lying going on. I think there's some stretching of the truth, like I really didn't intend to do this, but this is what happened and now I'm here. Even something simple, it's possible to work through it a little bit more one-on-one with the students when they're in that room. Some students hate that there's no room. Some students love it that there's no windows in it. But it does add an air of mystery. What happens behind that door? Now, since I've been there, I have taken on a few other projects so that when there is a slow pace in the ISS room, I do help with the attendance and truancy issues. I keep a record of who's missed 5 days, 10 days, 15 and on up. And they're all recorded in the computer. Letters go home to the parent. It is also logged into the system, and then the letters get mailed. So that's one clump of activity that I do when I don't have kids there. The other things I've done is I greet in the morning. I'm at the front door when they come in. This has helped to establish a trusting and working relationship with a lot of kids who have a hard time just opening up to somebody. They see me first thing in the morning, they come in, we joke, we laugh. It's possible to take somebody that's having a really grumpy morning and make an observation that they're outfits they're wearing today, and they laugh and giggle, and they come in a better mood. And they go, and that's boys and girls. I have quite a few boys that like to come up at the door, and it sets a tone. The other thing I do is I've occasionally subbed when teachers have been out. I've been able to step in and to take the classes for them. So there's lots of different things that happen during the day. In ISS, a lot of record keeping, a lot of little bits of pieces of paper with notes to go to Mr. Broadley or one to Miss Lee. And I think that having a place right in the school where the students can have their timeouts that teachers send him out because he was spitting on somebody or whatever, and have a place they can come in and sit down and tell me what they're being sent for. And I say, so what's your part in it? Help them reflect on it and decide what they want to do differently and why it makes sense to do what they did. So we just take a little time, running through that, and they'll come back up and say, I know what you mean. I could have stopped this right there, but I didn't. So there's some responsibility. They're learning to take responsibility for things that they've done, that they know they shouldn't have done. And they spend some time without socialization with their peers. And they don't want it. They would really rather be in the lunchroom instead of eating lunch in ISS. But it's important that these kids realize that there are boundaries to behavior. They can't learn if their mind isn't on what they're doing, if they're spending too much time worrying about what that kid's doing and that kid's doing, and maybe spitballs and throwing them, and yes, they still throw stuff. But I think that seeing it as an add-on to the school budget instead of something that really helps support the students and support the teachers, I think it would be a mistake to lose it. And I'm not just saying that because of my position. I really do. It would be a shame to lose them. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Ann Lamb, and I am a community member in Chester. And looking to the board, I know you've been tasked with creating this budget, and that you have done it with due diligence, and it was voted down. So the next task is, what are the next steps? And I think it's important for us to all realize that we are in that all community members are in a position right now where they are struggling and they are feeling a lot of pressure and financial fear. And this is one area that they feel like they have control over because they can't control the gas prices and they can't control the grocery prices, but they can vote down a budget. You have already created another option, and I am asking that you take the time and energy, more time and more energy to educate the public, the community members, on what is at stake here. And its impact that it's going to have on our students, the impact it's going to have on our community. And also that comparison of what is the actual impact it is going to have on taxes. And when I say this, I am understanding that even a small amount of increase in taxes is very impactful on people. But we really do have to take into account the impact it's going to have on the next generation. So we are obviously all here right now because the budget didn't pass. And I'm asking that you consider putting forth the original budget
after providing some very clear details again to the public, that is the simple bullet points of comparison between the two budgets so that people can make an informed decision. And that is on the public for not knowing. And we have put a lot of faith in you and have trusted what you have done. And again, people are fearful, so they need more clear information so that they can make a better informed decision to support the most important people in our community, which is the student body and the teachers who support them. So thank you all very much. It was.
I don't see it in here.
It's
Hello, I'm Ariana. I was here Monday speaking. I am a fifth, sixth grade teacher at Chester Andover Elementary School and also a parent of a child in this community. And I felt on Monday a wave of support from hearing everybody speak during public comments, and it was very clear. And that is what this school district is about. We as families and educators work hard to create a supportive community for students in and out of the classroom. For years, I've heard stories my husband has told from his experiences growing up in this town. And now I feel so lucky that I get to raise my children to live these same experiences. This is just one example of this community supporting generational growth and being a place that families want to stay or come to. Students are our future generation. Investing in schools and educators who care deeply about the students reflects back on what we want the community to be in the future. If we begin to invest less and lose our teachers due to budget cuts, not only will we have an immediate impact on our current students, but there will be a longevity effect. In the future, the small bubbles of class sizes we're worried about right now will be too large to sustain and support students the way they need, resulting in the need to retire. The lack of teachers wanting to come back after already being displaced will show, and teachers are not wanting to start over and be low on the totem pole. And while, yes, I'd love to keep my job because my position is one of those that would be cut in the proposed budget for Act 73, I will find another job. I'll be a teacher somewhere else, but that is not this community. It's not the community that I am proud to be in right now and see the students grow in. It's not this right now is a community where teachers want to feel valued and supported, and it has a direct effect on our students. This is why I'm proposing that we put back the original budget. I believe it was only voted down by 37 votes. And as we stated the other night, it was a very snowy night in Vermont and a nice spring day. But I believe that this community really wants to support our students, our teachers, and our education system. And I believe if we put the original budget back out, the community will show up to support us.
Thank you.
Randy Miles. I want to talk first about the minutes of the meeting. I would hope that this board decides that the recordings of the meeting is the number one to go to above any paper or written thing. Therefore, you would be protected with what was said in the meetings as opposed to what may have been misinterpreted, just a quick toss out there. My second thing about the discussions here is that it's very hard to hear some of you speak outside the immediate table area. I don't know if there's any way of getting better microphones or speaking louder or something on that, but it's very hard to hear, and I want to hear what everybody has to say clearly. Last thing I want to say is I'm going to break ranks a little bit with the discussion that everybody's been having up on the podium. I am for teachers, I am for students, I am for schools, but we are now beginning the very first phase of a very, very long, difficult road that's ahead of us all. Next year, we're going to break 20 million.
Could be battery if we stay the course we are at. I'm a single parent. Money is extremely tight. It hits me on every different direction I look at. I want accountability from the teachers. I want the teachers to be well compensated for, well taken care of. We also have teachers that, maybe we should relook at, and I don't know what you do with that. Tenure doesn't automatically or shouldn't automatically protect them. We need to get this school and every school into a better place, and that is all about education. Not so much about social services, about educating every single student to the best of their abilities. And that's what we should be focusing on. Thank you.
I've been asked to read a statement from a student. This is from Silas Murphy. I believe that Mr. Jackins, Daryl, Mrs. Bell, and anyone else involved do not deserve to be laid off. If they were, it would cause serious problems for our school. For example, who would handle situations when students need to go to the office or when discipline is needed? Losing staff would make things much more difficult and disorganized. We also need an 8th grade social studies teacher, and Mr. Jackins fills that role. Without him, it's unclear who would teach that subject. The same applies to Ms. Riley, who teaches 8th grade language arts. Without her, students would not have a proper teacher for that class. Additionally, combining all 7th and 8th graders into one classroom would not work well. It would be too crowded and make it harder for students to learn. Overall, these teachers and staff members are important to our school, and keeping them would help maintain a good learning environment for everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
There are others,
All right, so I'm a teacher here, in class, it's not my class, it's not from my class. A student asked to read a, argumentative essay that they wrote, and I guess they could pick anything they wanted to write it on. And then after she read hers, we then spent the rest of the class hearing everybody else's. But hers I just thought it needed to be shared, so.
can you share your name?
Yep, I'm Carolyn Hamilton. This is from Jordan Farr, so. I will do my best. She did a really good job, but. Imagine yourself about to start your senior year of high school, but this time, instead of starting your first day at Green Mountain, the school you've been at for the past 5 years, you're starting at a brand new school, almost 45 minutes away with about 1,000 more kids. This is what will happen if Vermont redistricts and consolidates schools for the 2028-2029 school year, our senior year. Vermont passed a law in July of 2025 called Act 73. This act is a major Vermont reform law aiming to restructure the school system for better equity and sustainability. However, this act has caused much conflict between the people of Vermont, and it would turn 171 districts into 10 to 20 large districts. The goal is to reduce rising education costs and ease the burden of property taxes. Yet the issue is not simply the number of districts, it lies in the complexity of the funding formula itself. So should Vermont redistrict and consolidate schools? No, although Vermont Act 73 could potentially stop the rising property taxes and save some money, Vermont should not redistrict and consolidate schools, as it would harm the communities and significantly impact families living in rural areas. To begin, schools are where students spend the majority of their time for 13 years. Schools are also where the community gathers to watch sports games, a play, a concert, or even to hold a town meeting. Diane Ravitch, an education expert, once said schools are often the anchor of their communities, representing the values, traditions, and ideals that have persevered across decades. Redistricting and consolidating schools would cause many rural schools to close, harming communities and the relationships among people in those towns. Yes, this is a student. Local economies rely on families and students from the town and the surrounding areas to keep themselves in business. If no one spends any time in the town anymore, then the businesses will lose customers and won't make any money, resulting in closures. Eventually, over time, this creates an economic decline. A report from the National Center of Education Statistics has shown that rural schools often serve as the central and social and economic hubs in their communities. Removing or consolidating these schools into large districts that are distant would strip the town of its identity and sense of connection. Secondly, the increased travel distance creates serious safety risks, especially for teenage drivers. A drive of 45 minutes or more will increase the possibility of a car accident. According to the National Highway of Traffic Safety Administration, in 2023, 822 teen drivers died in crashes, and a total of 2,611 teen drivers were involved in crashes where someone died. Accidents are the leading cause of death for 15 to 18-year-olds, primarily car accidents. Longer drive times means more risk exposure, especially when a teen is distracted, either changing the music, texting, or calling, or even having a conversation with a passenger. Sleep deprivation also plays a major role. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention reports that over 70% of high school students do not get enough sleep. Earlier wake-up times for longer commutes would only worsen this issue. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine found that when school start times were delayed, crash rates among 16 to 18-year-old drivers dropped from 31% to 29%. Accidents per 1,000 drivers. In areas without later start times, crash rates did not improve. Students who do not get enough sleep and have to drive long distances to schools, practices, or after-school activities increase the risk of a car accident. This demonstrates a clear link between sleep and driver safety. Another key factor is the weather. Is a school really going to call a snow day or a 2-hour delay if only a couple of the towns are affected? Probably not. Because we live in Vermont, snow and freezing rain will occur, but these conditions will vary greatly across towns. Think of Ludlow and Springfield, for example. Ludlow will sometimes get 10 inches of snow while Springfield only gets a mere 4. This forces inexperienced drivers onto dangerous road conditions. The combination of long distances, fatigue, and severe weather creates a dangerous but avoidable situation. The bottom line is that if Vermont redistricts and consolidates schools, multiple factors could create car accidents, but they could be avoided if the government does not follow through with this act. While supporters of the consolidation would argue that it will save money, there is little evidence that this idea will save as much money as the government is hoping to. A study by the National Education Policy Center found that large-scale school consolidation often results in minimal cost savings and in some cases increased expenses due to transportation and infrastructure demands. This is because transportation costs are continuing to increase significantly. More fuel will be used. There will be a need for more buses and more bus drivers. The less use of the buildings will decrease the electric and water bills, but higher populated schools require expanded facilities, staffing, more food, school supplies, computers, textbooks, all the resources needed to accommodate the students. The idea that redistricting and consolidating will save money is much more of an assumption than a proven fact. Instead, the government should re-examine the funding formula. Right now, our state funds our schools by getting all the property tax money from across the state, pooling it and then redistributing it. This system is complex and it impacts tax rates across the state. If the state switches to Act 73, it would shift all budget decision making away from the communities and make it a state decision by deciding on school budgets throughout
a foundational formula. This formula sets a base amount of $15,033 per student, augmented by the weights of the economically disadvantaged students, English learners, and special education needs. The government needs to review both systems and find a funding formula that is more affordable for everyone in the state without complicating school districts. In the end, Act 73 may have good intentions, but it doesn't look closely enough at all the details, especially for those who live in rural areas. Schools are the foundation of the communities, and Act 73 threatens local economies, increases safety risks for students, and will most likely not achieve the financial benefits it promises. While reducing costs may seem important to some, it cannot come at the expense of the safety, connection, and opportunity of our students. Schools are where students grow, create, identify, and make connections. Vermont should not redistrict and consolidate schools, as it would harm communities and significantly impact families living in rural areas. Well done. Great. Now I'm going to come for myself.
Written by a
Ninth grade student.
That's impressive.
Research for me.
Well, yes, very. Yeah, great. All right. Kind of changing the tune a little bit, but can anybody tell me, I know you guys probably can't actually answer me, but whatever. Can anybody tell me Newton's first law of motion?
Motions continues to stay.
All right, so objects remain at rest until acted upon by an external force, and they stay in motion once in motion. The external force is the state of Vermont and the governor. Cutting teachers is the first push upon us towards consolidating. Who's going down easy and will bend first? Easy takers for the state. Who will it be? Once we start dismantling our school and our district as a whole, it will not stop. Hence Newton's first law. The state will keep pushing and pushing until there's nothing left here. The small and even medium-sized schools that are what Vermont is completely known for will be gone. We have people that come here from other states for this model in particular. They come from the South for the small and medium-sized schools. And it will be gone. Once we start with cuts, especially to our teaching staff, it's all downhill from there. The other night at the Monday school board meeting, there was something that was brought up about our teachers and our kids. Just a raise of hand of people that are here. If you are a teacher and have kids or have had kids in our district. All right, just in the few people that are here. The other night I was listening to the board meeting and kind of multitasking. Just from I've only lived here 10 years, and just from the people that I know from this side of town, so not including Ludlow and Mount Holly, just Chester, Andover, GM, and I know a few people in Cavendish. I counted 72 kids, 58 of them who have gone through our district. And I'm sure there's many, many more. So if you start taking away and cutting our teachers, and especially the young non-seniority teachers, you continue the track towards exactly what the governor wants. This is his intent, to cause his agenda to keep rolling forward, and you start cutting teachers, you start dropping enrollment, then you're forcing their hand. Ludlow is our unfortunate prime example. Ludlow is not the same town it was 10 years ago, even when I got here, and I've heard stories of it from before, way before I was around here. I coached 8 years of varsity soccer, and some of my fondest memories were playing Ludlow and the hell of a rivalry that we had with them. As an outsider moving here, I have seen the difference not having Black River has had on the community of Ludlow. They lost their local connection, their community spark. Like completely. It's a completely different community. And for what? For what? If you ask any Ludlow resident, they would tell you that their taxes have continued to rise and rise and rise. And where are they going? Where are the tax dollars going? Because they're not going to their local schools. They're going to everybody else's. Are we going to be sheep and continue to follow this false facade of closing local schools to actually lower taxes? Or are we going to show up for our kids and show them that what they chose to be, they didn't pick a goat, they didn't pick a gecko, they picked a grizzly bear. And if you look up a basic definition of a grizzly bear, it's known for its high intelligence and its strength. We need to be the warriors for our kids because the local townspeople of Ludlow sure as hell were for theirs. And they tried their hardest to keep their school open. And we need to come together and find creative, unique, and flexible pathways, even loopholes to the governor's plan to in his system, whatever it takes. I've talked to people in Springfield, they're making loopholes, they're making it work, they're keeping all their teachers. And they're finding ways to do it. They gave their contracts out and they don't have enough kids for his numbers and they're making it work and they're finding loopholes. But not giving into it is very important. To give our local pushback in the opposite direction and give our students the most and the best opportunities we can for them to have a future growing up, going to school right here in Green Mountain and our local elementary schools. I want us to continue to put our efforts toward improving our school building, our school community, our engagement within the community, so that we can be grizzly bears for our kids. So that when other schools in the area bend and even break to consolidation, we are still standing strong and they're coming to us because they have noticed what we are doing and want to be a part of our growing school district. My dream for my kids who are in 5th grade and in kindergarten is that we have a numbers problem. Too many kids for the building. That we are coming up with unique and important ways to continue growing our district and using our resources. Because guess what? We have Black River, the building. There is a place to put more kids if we get them. There is always ways to be unique, to improvise, to work the numbers, to figure it out. And if your kids are important, and if you guys are on a school board, kids should be the most important part. Then it should be not a numbers game of who's getting cut. It should be a numbers game of how are we going to make it work with what we got? And how are we going to add so that we do have kids staying in our building and being here and building our numbers. And I would love to hear that in the future that you guys are having a numbers problem in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam McDonald, Chester resident. I'm also an employee at Chester Andover. Speaking of numbers, just briefly, when the budget still was held, if you look on the Chester town website and you see the copy of the green slip, it shows that there were 1,013 people who voted. I called town hall and they said that includes Chester, Andover, Baltimore, and Cavendish. They take all those ballots and they count them together on election day. New information for me. I didn't know that. I slept last night. Also on the Chester website, there's a report from the State Board of Elections of, that lists the number of registered voters in Chester alone. And it says there are 2,501 registered voters as of the day, like in March, when that report was issued. 685 voted. That includes mail-in votes. So that's 27% of registered Chester voters. So if there's any thought that you're wondering, if we put that original budget up, Because I don't have the numbers for voter enrollment for Cavendish, Baltimore, and Andover. And I'm sorry for that. I was part of a mission, but ran out of time. But if there's any wonder, could you float that original budget? Would we get the numbers? We have 27% of the Chester voters who voted, and everyone else who hasn't had that chance. So in education, we're all about chances, learning opportunities, second chances, third chances, fourth chances. You've heard that from so many members of our community today. Let's give all of our voters another chance. Please put that original budget up for vote. Please give us all another chance.
Here in the room who would like to speak? And if you are online, you can raise your hands. You can do that with the react button, or you can just hold your hand up and have your camera on. Yep, Scott McDonald, please.
Muted, Scott.
No, they shouldn't.
I know, I got it unmuted. So thank you. I'll be as brief as I can. I just had a passing thought the other day, and I'll run it by you, and we don't give it some thought, but a lot of towns and a lot of states, and even the school budget isn't grouped in with the normal vote for a lot of places. And I think if we look at it objectively, what happens is everybody comes in to vote, and there's all this stuff that everybody has to vote on. And I'd be willing to bet you that there's a large percentage of people who aren't actually that invested either way. And they come in and they're voting on all this stuff, and they see this big number, and it's a yes or a no, and it's kind of a coin toss. What do I vote? I would just like to put out there to think about this. And I know it's a little more logistics and maybe a little more cost, but if you had a separate vote for the school budget, the people who would come would be coming because that's why they're coming. Whether they're against the budget or for the budget, they'd be people who are there just for that rather than the randomness of all this stuff to vote for and checking off stuff without necessarily knowing why. I think as a community, we would be better having people who are there for that reason. We'd have a more educated vote. That's all I wanted to say. So something to maybe consider, and you guys could talk about it amongst yourself. And if you think there's any merit to it, bring it up to the select board and see what they say. But sometimes you have to look at the quality of the votes, and it's not a yes or a no. It's what you're getting, people who are there for that, who've given it dedicated thought. And I think there's an importance to that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, are there others who would like to speak in this initial comment period? Okay, and just checking in with our procedure, we did not vote to actually move the budget, so we still have the reports, which are written for the most parts. So if we can just go through those, it should be fairly. So the first of those is the superintendent's report. Are there any questions for him on that? Then we had 1, 2, 3 principals reports. Are there any questions on that? I have a quick one about the CTS, only because what was in this report for the planning for next year is different from what was sent out to parents yesterday. But I can find out and checking. Just the organization of the classes, same number of teachers, but which classes are together was different in those two. We did not have a written facilities report. Is that?
There's
Those added.
copy there.
Okay.
I know you are
written reports, but this is something that needs discussion and probably a vote. Some time ago, good evening, everybody, by the way. Some time ago, the board tasked me and Cheryl with going out to bid for a new school bus. The bids were opened this week, yesterday. We had three people bid, so we're in good shape. All pretty competitive. Dodco of International, Anderson Company with a Bluebird bus, and Cressy out of Maine, who we bought all of our buses in the supervisory, not just in Green Mountain Unified. Dodco was the lowest bid, 134,240. The Bluebird bus was 137,477, and Cressy with the Thomas buses was the highest at 142,658. So it's a difference of $5,200 between the middle bid and the highest bid. I spoke with Cheryl and with Lane. We're all in agreement. It would be my recommendation to stay with the Thomas buses, even at that little bit more money. I would think this would cause the future person that's going to be whoever's going to take my place would be a headache to have one different bus. If it was a substantial more amount of money, I would probably consider something different, but not at that price. And the international bus, we had international buses when I first started here, and they were problematic wouldn't be the right word. I couldn't use the right word in public setting. There was some conversation about trade.
Can you just repeat the number for the bus you're recommending?
It was 142,658.
Thank you.
We only got a trade idea because it's no different in your car, right? They're gonna give you a very small amount. Not worth a trade. We should keep our buses. They don't have that many miles on them. They're starting to show somewhere, we're starting to put some money into them, but I don't believe it's worth, letting one go on a trade. Not at this time. Maybe the next time you decide to buy a bus, you might want to think about trading one in, but not right now. Not the right time. So those are your bids. Cheryl, did you have anything you wanted to add?
So we have the money in capital reserve right now with our transportation reserve. We have $374,484. So the cost is covered.
And there is a fairly substantial lead time for each of the bidders for a bus. So if you approved it today and we notified whoever we were going to award the bid to it, April,
Just in September.
maybe the start of school year, maybe.
Yeah, my personal feeling is, Todd, you know what you're doing, and if you think that bus is our option, then I would move to.
That's my suggestion, and Wayne and Cheryl and I are all in agreement that we should stay with the Thomas buses.
I move to purchase the Thomas bus.
I'll second.
Do we need as part of that motion approval to spend the money from the transportation capital?
I move to purchase the Thomas bus using transportation.
And I'll second it.
Is there a discussion about this?
Can you just remind me, was there something else we were gonna be utilizing capital, transportation capital for? Where else?
The plan is to be able to, if we bought all those buses at one time, and so we can start replacing them one at a time, then it's not gonna be a big financial burden as we go.
None of them, if we did one a year, right, none of them get be more than 8 years old. It's kind of what you try to do in the old days when they were textbooks is, you didn't want your textbooks to be more than 3 years old, you'd replace it for them every year.
But we haven't utilized that. I just feel like we've had a discussion about something else being placed this calendar year. Not a bus, but a little.
Do we buy a small thing?
Was there a truck or?
That came out of the budget.
Or is that straight?
The truck came out of the budget, out of the general fund, yep.
No, actually, I think a portion of it did. That was a couple years ago.
Oh. Good one.
Yes.
Sure do.
Who was the second on that?
Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. And hang on, Mike, one last thing before Mike's question. All your schools are in good shape right now, all three. Nothing to report that's gonna cause any budgetary effect, so we're in good shape. What you got, Mike?
Can I ask a question about the report?
Sure.
The EEI thing, that something we should be concerned about?
Nope, Lane's working with, there's some contractual things going on right now. Lane's working with EEI right now. We're hoping to have that
I
figured
just thought
out.
we had a really good relationship with them. I was kind of.
We'll see what happens. Lane's working on it.
It's a question about whether we really have a performance contract. It's not a question about their value of the work that they do. I'm actually driving to Williston tomorrow to meet them in their offices to try to get it.
Right.
All good? Thank you.
We also had a written financial report. Cheryl, thank you for that summary. That was hugely helpful. I had two really quick things about that one. I didn't mean to skip the curriculum report. Are there questions about the curriculum report? Okay. Yeah, I lost my page. So there were two things on the budget report I just had quick questions about. One is the board training for policy governance. That was the previous training. It is not budgeting for new members. Is that right?
I think that's correct.
Okay. And then property insurance, we're over by 7,500. And that just is.
They don't, it's friends and experience and usage and deductibles, all that stuff. We're in a self-insure plan, and I will say Visit treats us very good. They ended up giving us the full insurance payout for the building in Chester Andover. They initially gave us $17,000 when we went back because the thing was requested, and they gave us $157,000.
Thanks.
So they're good to us. So they're increasing our warranty. And we do have our auditor.
Yeah. Were there other questions about the report? All right, we can hand it over for the auditor presentation.
John, you're up.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me here tonight. I do see some familiar faces, but if you don't know me, my name is John Boulay. I was the audit manager for Green Mountain this year and have been for the last couple of years. I just have a short presentation here that kind of touches on some of the major statements and schedules and kind of goes over the opinion that we provide. So I'm going to share my screen here quickly. Okay. Okay. So again, fairly short, I won't take up too much of your time. I'll go over the opinion, basically the responsibilities of each party here, and kind of go over some of the balance sheets, the income statements, and give you like a 3-year comparison of some of those numbers. So this first slide is the client's responsibilities. These would be the district's responsibilities. This next slide is going to be the auditor responsibilities or our responsibilities for the engagement. You can see these in the SAS 114 letter that we do provide, as well as the full audit report. This third slide here, this is where we provide our opinion. So this is an excerpt from page 1 of the independent auditor's report, and kind of highlighted on the right there is paragraph 2. So, in our opinion, we provided the district with an unmodified opinion, which is the highest and cleanest opinion that, a district in Vermont can receive. So kudos to Cheryl and her team over there at the central office. Very well, very good. So next couple slides are going to be balance sheet related. This is a 3-year comparison of the balance sheet. A couple notes on this slide here. You can see cash has increased over the fiscal year while your total assets have decreased. That just tells me there was less accounts receivable at year end. So there was more, inflow of money close to year end. So cash at the end of the year was higher than a prior year. And then accounts receivable, on the other hand, was a little bit lower than prior year. And then the only other major note on this page is going to be this fund balance line. We can see a large decrease in fund balance, and I'll kind of touch on that in a little bit too, but it's really not a decrease. You're taking about 490,000 from general fund and transferring it to a couple capital funds. So your capital projects fund, got about 400,000, and then the bus reserve, that transportation fund, got about 90,000. Kind of a pie chart for that fund balance. You can see 94% of it is unassigned. The 6% up at the top there is non-spendable. That non-spendable fund balance kind of varies from year to year, and it's strictly related to the prepaid items at year end. And what I'll say is the FY25 prepaid items were much less than the last 2 fiscal years. Here's just that 3-year comparison for the fund balance. Again, we're just talking general fund right here. You can see the unassigned columns. That's where a lot of your fund balance is sitting. It's very rarely sitting in non-spendable here. And you're not seeing anything in restricted, committed, assigned, because you're taking this unassigned money and transferring it to those specific reserve or capital project accounts. And again, yes, it did decrease from prior year, but again, that money didn't, leave the district. It is still in your capital projects fund and your bus reserve, that transportation fund. So switching to the income statement now, this is going to be the 3-year comparison for your revenues. You can see over here that these large left columns, those are intergovernmental revenues, grants, things like that. Charges for services is going to be tuition. So you can see a majority of the revenues coming from intergovernmental funds, and it's a normal increase year over year. This next slide is going to be a budget to actual for those revenues. We can see that, you had under received by about 2%, nothing to turn heads about. And we can see that it was mainly due to this charges for services line, which is directly related to tuition. Okay. Next, I'll touch on these expenses for the general fund. A lot going on here. I think the only ones I really want to touch on are the 2 on the left, the regular instruction and then the special ed. Regular ed, all expenses are increasing everywhere, every year. So this to me is a normal increase in regular ed or regular instruction expenses. Cheryl had mentioned to me earlier that, you have seen an increase in special ed over the last few years. So, Cheryl already has her finger on the pulse there. So nothing else crazy to note, some normal increases here, sports services, a lot of, very similar expenditures year to year. There's really nothing else to note. Again, same with the revenues. We've got the budget to actual here for the expenses. Under budget by about 1%, and that 1% is about this 172,000 down here. It's related to a few different things. There were a couple that were underspent. So admin support services, operations and maintenance, about 107,000. And then, over budget in special ed. So at the end of the day, you were still under budget by about 172,000. And I kind of relate that to those 3 classifications here, those 3 budget lines. Normally at the end, we provide a management letter, which kind of outlines any recommendations for strengthening internal controls, at the central office. After doing some test work on disbursements and receipts, journal entries, things like that, we have no best practice suggestions for Cheryl or the central office at this time. So kudos to her. But normally you would see that here. And another note that I didn't put on here because Green Mountain was not single audit, an audit of federal funds. 97% of the federal funds that are received at Green Mountain are child nutrition, just kind of an interesting fact. Still, well below the threshold of a single audit eligible. That threshold's about $750,000 and increasing. And I believe Green Mountain had received $360,000 in federal funds. So, again, not close at all. And yeah, that's all I had. Do I hear any questions?
No, but in the interest of time, would there be the CDs that can be mailed to us?
Don, can you email me that presentation?
I can do that, yes.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
I just, if I can, for just a moment, this is incredibly complicated work that has done a machine.
Thank you, John.
Of course.
Hey, that wraps up the administrative reports. We do have 2 items under old business. The first of those is to consider creation of a subcommittee and what the membership of that would be, specifically to talk about elementary class size is. One of the main reasons for this is that Ludlow Mount Holly has created such a committee, and if the Green Mountain part of the union would like to be able to talk to the Ludlow Mount Holly part of the union about any sort of elementary school, which is what those 2 districts share, any sort of elementary school anything, then we need to know who's going to be on that committee to do it. So yeah, Lane, do you have more to say about that?
No, I think Ludlow Mount Holly has expressed an openness to kind of connect on the Green Mountain side, and the subcommittee is probably the easiest way to do it. They've had 1 meeting so far, and kind of what they're doing at this point in time is they've asked for a bunch of data to be presented at the next meeting, so they can start to wrap their head around, potential strategies. They're in a little bit different boat than Green Mountain. The enrollment piece is an equal concern on both sides. They had trouble staying under what's called the excess spending threshold. And so they kind of have a double whammy that they want to try to work out.
So if there is interest, the first thing to do would be to move to create such a subcommittee. And then there would be a second motion when we had some, or no, there wouldn't need to be a motion. Then there would be nominations for people who are willing to stand up.
The subcommittee to discuss elementary class size.
That point of information. Can we just clearly state what would the purpose of the committee be? I heard it discuss class size, but what would the ultimate goal be to do?
So that would be part of the motion. The board would charge that committee with the mission that the board feels it should be.
Can we ask what the objective of the Ludlow Mount Holly?
So they're in a position, especially with Ludlow School, Mount Holly, not so much, where kind of no matter how they jiggle things around or combine classes, that they're not able to meet Act 73. Cavendish is kind of in a similar position. And so there might be a way to talk, band grades, combine the grades, band them so that, 3 grades are here and 3 grades are there so that they're in compliance, all sorts of stuff. But that's their primary concern, and like I said, their secondary concern is checking staffing levels because they don't want to be over the suspended next year.
So if I understand that correctly, it would be to be a think tank to try to creatively populate the elementary classrooms and not minimize staff.
If that's the board's will. You could make it broader and make it like an Act 73 restructuring committee. So that, you're studying potential impacts on the school, and as a board, you're looking about the strategies to potentially respond if stuff ever.
Yeah, I do think that's really important because a subcommittee that was Act 73 restructuring for the district is one that is different from a subcommittee that is focused on elementary school class size. So knowing which of those this subcommittee would be is both a different mission and would have different people on it.
You all discussed this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would.
Yeah. This really came up because the Ludlow Mount Holly side has such a subcommittee now. and is just asking for this information and doing the explanation.
Like I need to learn more.
If it were an Act 73 committee, part of the work could be examining this elementary component right now, while concurrently trying to be proactive and get ahead of what's coming out of Pittsburgh in terms of protecting and investing in our district. It could be both, like elementary can't be both, but Act 73 could encompass all of it.
So it sounds like the motion need to be really nuanced, well thought out.
What you might do, in terms of whether Mount Holly, if the board, decides it wants to create a committee, is they had a general idea, theirs was kind of an Act 73 restructuring, and they charged, the three folks that, were going to be bringing in the community and whatnot, coming up with a mission statement that came back and they approved.
That makes sense.
Were the members appointed or did they apply or what, how are they?
The board members were appointed, right? That was the part of the committee formation. And then they also defined as a part of the motion, who from the community would be invited to be part of it. And then they talked about the fact that it was really important that, the meetings are running kind of an open forum style to try to get as much involved as possible.
And if we wanted more time to figure out what that committee's job would be, we could also do something like appoint two people from the board to go to that meeting and report back. But also consider in the next meeting actually creating this subcommittee. It wouldn't necessarily have to be the same people.
Yeah, that's the 12th.
Do we know when that meeting is?
I think it's on the 27th.
So we do have a motion and a second on the table. Are we still discussing that, which is the creation of a subcommittee to discuss elementary class size?
Does the motion have to create a framework of this thing or is that created after? Hypothetically.
Yep, so you could amend this motion to, yes, we're agreeing to create that subcommittee, but we are delaying giving the charge to that committee until a future meeting. You could take that motion off the table and instead do one only to appoint people to go to this April 27th meeting.
So, can I make that motion? I will withdraw them. And unfortunately, I would be interested in participating in this, but I am not going to be here on April 27th. So, I cannot attend the meeting in the moment.
Meeting, if I recall, I'd have to go back if the notes are on my desk. They usually run them early. They start at like 3:15.
No, that would work for me, but not on April 27th. Because I want to.
I would be interested in attending that meeting. Does that require a motion?
If you want to be there as a representative of the board, it does. If you just want to go and public are welcome, then it doesn't.
Like, it sounds like if we want to have a committee, then we can make a motion that's.
Well, would you be willing to bring that information to the board?
Absolutely.
So why don't we make a motion? And have a representative at that meeting, and that representative will come in. Shane will report to us, and we could.
Mike said just.
Well, we could have more than one, just.
So leave it open.
Yeah.
So this motion is that we have one or more representatives
At the April
for the Green Mountain Board at the April 27th meeting to report back to this board.
At a May meeting, then we can decide what our next action would be.
Second.
And that was seconded by Anne. Is there any additional discussion about, or is there anyone else who might be, well, I guess we should vote on this first. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so now we're voting on sending or having a couple of representatives of the board attend this meeting and report back. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and now we can take nominations for the being those representatives.
Oh, we just sending people to go, wouldn't just be volunteer right now, because we're not forming a committee yet.
That's right. Well, it's a one event commitment. But since the people, anyone who is going as a representative of the board would need to have the board say, yes, we want you to represent us there. Are you volunteering? Or nominating yourself?
No, I
Excellent.
was just saying, just ask a volunteer, see how many people want to go, and just have the board vote on those 2 or 3 people, or
Yeah.
4 or 5 people.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter how many of us go.
Yeah. Anyone can volunteer and.
I'm not volunteering, I won't be here either.
So we have Mike, Shayna, and Anne.
Perfect, sounds good. Great.
I'll shoot an email hopefully tomorrow afternoon and give you
Okay,
a,
yes.
make sure that's the right date, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you, Lynn.
Right, and the next thing we need to do, before we can get to the budget is right now. Donovan and Mike are our 2 members on the support staff bargaining subcommittee, and we need another person. Who can do that? Do either of you have information about that subcommittee or?
We've met once with, the representatives from the support staff, Laura and Carol. And, got started, and they gave us their initially asked me to come up with a counter, but, we had to cancel the last meeting that we were supposed to have the last week, so that didn't happen. So the next one will be the 30th. 30th.
Yeah, and it's definitely nice if it's the same people, who are there regularly. It's certainly okay if somebody can't make a meeting, but it's really important to not have those people. You have to have a lot switching out. Yes.
And just 2 of us, if one of us can't make it for whatever reason, kind of kills it, so we got at least 3. I mean, 2 out of the 3 could make it. That's.
Won't be here on the 30th either.
But even you just want to be on the committee, we step it.
I didn't mind being on the committee, but I'm not coming back from Virginia till May 1st. I wouldn't be able to make that.
Put it done in my book. That's fine. You can move on without you. Then at least then we know we have somebody else on the committee.
Yeah.
So your desire is to be on the committee. But
But I'm interested in the committee. I just wouldn't, I'm gonna be in the air on the 30th. I will not be able to.
Don't let that slow you down. You'll be able to do the rest of the meetings.
Right.
Anticipate that you could.
So I missed that one, but and I could talk to you, you could fill me in. So, yeah, no, I'd be willing to be on the committee.
All in favor of appointing Penny to the support staff bargaining subcommittee in addition to Mike and Donovan, who we already have. Any opposed? Great, thank you. And that does bring us to new business and the budget discussion, starting with Lane giving first a presentation on student enrollment and then a presentation on the budget possibilities. And you might as well throw in the information on when Towns can hold the meeting.
Second. Let me stand up, so I apologize for that. So this is, depending upon questions that are there, this is pretty straightforward data. So I looked at it kind of in a longitudinal, framework, and then kind of focused specifically in on like each school and what's happening in the classrooms, because that's what's most pertinent to like Act 73. In terms of the school district as a whole, this goes back to 2019, so there's about 7 years of trend data there. This is the trend line, which you can see is going down. The slope of that line is negative 10.9, which means what? Every year that goes by, what's happening? We're losing about 11 students on that. One of the things to note as we kind of look at these graphs is just be careful, because some of the lines look steeper than they are and some of them don't look as steep as they should be, just because of how the scaling is on the side. In terms of data, when you have a wide spread of data like this, like it's scattered all over, it's far from the trend line, it generally means that you can't predict too far out into the future based upon it, right? If it's really close to the trend line, then it would be appropriate to say, yeah, that'll probably continue for a few years. Really comfortable with that. Cavendish Town Elementary School, go back to 2019, they were up probably around 105, 106 students. They're now down around 70 to 72. Again, the trend line is here. The data points are clustered closely around it, so it means that, that trend is probably going to continue for a little while. They're losing about 4 students per year as each year goes by. Chester Andover. Again, a little bit more spread in terms of the cluster around the trend line, but it's fairly close. They're losing about 5 students per year on average. And again, given the trend line and the cluster, that trend is probably going to continue for a while. Green Mountain, in terms of losses over time, is actually in the best shape. They're losing about 2 students per year, if you look back 7 years. So I don't know if before we move on to more of the specifics within the schools at the classroom level, if there's questions on any of just the general trend. So these, I had the principals who were good, who got the information over to us. So this is Cavendish. And so what you see when you're looking at this, like the first classroom, right? Hannah is the teacher there. It's a pre-K classroom. It's got 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds in there together. There are 7. Kindergarten, right? There's 7 students in there for that one classroom. In grade 1, that is one classroom. It has 4 students. Grade 2 has 20. They have a combined grade 3 and 4, with 4 of those students being 3rd graders, 8 are 4th graders. Grade 5, there's 10, and grade 6 is 12. When you see them highlighted, those are ones that are currently not in line with what Act 73 says is the minimum. For grade 1, that minimum would be 10 students. For grades 2 through 5, that minimum would be 12. Grade 6 would be 15. And so there were some permutations. The principals were kind of working on, hey, if we had to be in compliance with Act 73 tomorrow, how could we move these things around to make that happen? How could we combine grades? And like I said, I think Cavendish and Ludlow are kind of in the same boat. You can get close, but you're not quite able, no matter how you do things, to get fully in compliance with Act 73 at this point in time. Of course, you're going to get kids next year, but this is the data that we have.
Wait, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Most of the schools in the state, the elementary schools are K-6. Up to 8, but mostly they're K through 6.
I would say, and this is gonna be my educated guess. I would say that in districts with smaller numbers of students in them, it's K through 6. In larger districts, many will have a middle school model.
Right.
So they'll have 6, 7, and 8 at a middle school or in a cordoned off section of another school.
What I'm getting at is where they have numbers that go up to grade 3, and then 4, and then 5 and 6 are like they were growing kids all of a sudden. It's the same kids going through the system from K to 6.
Right.
How can you jump from 10 to 12 to 15? And I'm questioning not your numbers, or the state's rationale for it.
Yeah, the pattern that I typically see, and it wasn't quite here with Cavendish, is typically what you see with the school years. The trend lines become very important because one year the class will be here, the next year it's there, and it'll bounce back and forth year after year.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that happens, but that was true in the 2 other districts, that I did this type of work in. With the small schools, just one of those.
It's just where they want us to have more kids in 6th grade than we have in 5th grade.
Well,
in the school.
This piece is going to be important when we talk about the high school in a minute or two. So you got grade 5 and grade 6. In grade 5, you have to have 12 students to hit the line. Grade 6, you have to have 15. If you put these 2 grades together, it goes with a lower number. Right? You have to have 12.
Yeah.
And so there's an unanswered question about the high school when we get there this time around. So any other questions on Cavendish?
What's the enrollment for the pre-K for next year so far?
I have no idea. I know they're in the process right now. Typically, this is a new pre-K that we built my first year here. They did a really good job and pulled things together as a means of trying to get some numbers up a little bit. And more importantly, to serve the entire district. That is the Green Mountain Union School District preschool. It exists at Cavendish. We built them at OSSD. It usually took about 3 years before you got your full enrollments. The word starts to get out.
Right. Some of the local pre-Ks around Cavendish Elementary School are all on wait lists. So it might be worth it to put the word out there because with universal pre-K, that's some, tuition that can come in and offset the very small class sizes that we don't.
Tuition doesn't come in, it just doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Well, do you offer a full day? Don't parents have to then pay for the rest of the day? But I'm saying there are people who aren't residents.
Right now, it's not open to anybody.
You don't open it to anyone else.
Currently, they're doing.
Yeah.
What's the full enrollment?
I think the ratio is 10 right now, but I think they might go a little bit over that, but they go farther.
They gotta
than
have
that.
It's one. Yeah. And there's also space requirements, and above a certain amount, you got to have more hand washing stations. So Chester, Andover, probably the more important graph is this one over here. If we're talking about Act 73. This graph is literally the classrooms, right? You got 2 first grade classrooms. These are the 2 teachers. This is how many students are in there currently. This is what the requirements are under Act 173. The classes that are below those numbers are highlighted in yellow, but that doesn't really mean much because they've got multiple sections. So what you do in terms of Act 73 is you average them, right? If I got 2 first grade classrooms, the number that counts in terms of Act 73 is the average of those 2. And so this is the averages. And so you see that if they put those classrooms together, right, grade 2, the average is 11. So that doesn't quite hit the number that they're looking for. And grade 4 is a bit below. Pretty good shape. They're in pretty good shape. Questions on Chester Andover? At high school, they have to make things really difficult. And so they do have what are called working definitions out there about how to calculate some of this stuff. They don't have everything out there that's needed right now to answer all the questions. And so with a high school, it gets really weird. So this is how they define it. Within a single school, in a single year, take a straight average of all non-exempt courses in a content area. So the content areas are defined by teacher licensure. So if you were a math teacher. So what you would do to figure out the average for the high school for mathematics is you would look at all the classes in the high school. So that means 7 through 12. Doesn't partition it in our school because it's a single school. You would look at all the math classes that require a certified teacher to teach. That's the number of classes that you use in the average, and the total number of students in those classes is what you use in the average. And so what's quirky about this is, and this is a question, because we've got grades 6 through 8 at the high school and they're in that average, and the minimum is 15, and we've got grades 9 through 12 in there, and the minimum is 18 for them. Is this like the elementary school? Is that the number that we have to have? And so that's a question that's not defined yet. And I think Kate, I don't know, John, I know Kate was working on it.
Well, we found something on this today, long email, and we're waiting for an answer. She hasn't got back yet, but
yeah,
it totally falls in line with what they're putting out. So
We don't, sixth grade is not.
Sorry about that. Well, grades 6 through 8, the requirement is 15 students. We have grades 7 and 8 at the high school. So, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, makes sense. So, and again, they're not going to be perfect numbers, but they're going to be very closely in the ballpark of where we currently stand. If you take a look at math and you do that averaging, there's about 9.1 students per class. If you do ELA, it's about 9.4. Social studies, 12.7. Science, 12.4. Arts, 12. If it's 15, things might not be that bad. If it's 18, that's a whole other ballgame for it. And so it's important to kind of get that question. So unless there's questions on enrollment, that's it. Right. Trends are down. That's not unusual across Vermont, across the schools here. And, depending upon the school, depending upon what happens with Act 73, it's going to determine how much action that we're eventually required to make.
Yeah, I think we're ready for their presentation on the budget possibilities.
Are you sure?
I've read it, so yes.
That's up there. The chair? Sure.
It's in reference to the data. When you were looking at, sorry, I'm not even right. When you were looking at GMSUD, was that 9 through 12 or was that 7 through 12?
7 through 12. Because the definition says, if you're looking at math,
yeah,
it's all the courses in your building that have to be taught by a certified
one
math.
functional building. Okay.
And so that's why that question comes up about, okay, so then if the middle school kids, you only need 15 per class, high school, you need 18, and we're a combined average, which one applies to us? Is it 15 or 18? And that's the question that John and Kate sent on there.
Is the single school defined by like the resources or the physical?
They don't have a clear definition, so when I see single school, that means this building. Right. Yep.
I think I'm Pam O'Neill, the guidance director. I guess one of my, as you look at that data, is that what it doesn't show is that if we talk math, so we have algebra 1 that meets all year long. I'm talking about this year, so we had algebra 1 this year. We had this year geometry, again, meaning all year long. We also had a geometry honors class. So those students who were stronger in math then could go and take pre-calculus the same year. So that was a semester long, as an accelerated or honor, and then do that. We offer an AP class with our math teacher situation. We didn't have, we have a student taking it through full enrollment through Castleton. But I think some of those numbers, when you start looking at class size numbers, they're not all the same level and type of course. And so you can't just combine. It's really hard. Like that's it. Like our numbers, I don't like to look at them. Yeah. But I also know that I've got that, and I speak for the middle school too, we've got 300, plus kids that we want to prepare to be successful citizens and members, and we have, I can't see it here, but our portrait of a graduate, that it's what we need to do to to provide our kids with every opportunity equal to others in the state and country.
You just struck an interesting thought. As you build next year's master schedule, you may be better, preserving the courses, but do away with the semester courses. Because if you do that, the numbers will be higher in what's left.
Oh, as soon as we know resources, I mean, the guidance we're on, like I said last meeting, I mean, we're on, any workshop we went to, we're going to the one, the AOE, you need to know resources, curriculum. I mean, we have a good idea of what our kids want, but we have not been able to sit and say, hey, Susie, what exactly do you want? I can say what you need for graduation. And I can say who's going to AP classes or dual enrollment things, but when you start getting into choices, the hardest part is for us to say, oh, what do you want? Do you want these art classes? Do you want this? What do you want? And then say, sorry, just kidding. Because we only have a certain amount of time. Like the faster we can get this in and get going, the faster everybody is, because kids and parents are so anxious if it's over the summer and they don't know what they're doing. Even our middle school, it does the exact same thing every time. Yeah. 7th grade doesn't change. But but yes, once we know resources, that absolutely is with the direction of what's the best for our kids. And we've got great people to be able to do it.
And the high school, it's, they've got a higher lift in terms of figuring this out just because of the larger number of classes and sections that they have there.
All right, go for it.
Thanks for Elaine. Hey, so starting point here for this discussion is a level service budget. The level service budget. Level service budget is what we put out to the voters. And the idea behind the level service budget is we're not asking for anything in addition. All we were trying to do is preserve for next year what we are currently doing in terms of staffing and program this year. So that budget was 19.3 million, right? It was designed to keep everything the same as what we currently have, right? There's cost of living increases, there's inflation, there's all sorts of stuff. So to do that, it meant a $714,000 increase over the current budget, which was 18.6, the one we're living in right now. The biggest drivers for the change was an increasing cost for services in special education. And this wasn't necessarily meaning that we had more students. This was the cost of providing the services this year from the providers went up a lot for next year. You had a subsidy cliff. Remember in previous years, you took some money from surplus. You used it as a coupon to buy down people's taxes in the next year. That was one-time money. Well, the one-time money ran out. So to get you back up to that money that you didn't have, you had to ask for it from the education fund. There's contractual salaries that you have, right? Those are mandatory expenses. That's what's agreed to with the staff in terms of their master bargaining agreements. Benefits every year, health benefits go up like crazy. And this particular year, kind of looking ahead, the food service expenses went up because of inflation. And so they do generate funding through food services, right? They do charge students. Actually, I'm thinking back to the old days. But the cost has gone up relative to what we receive for reimbursement. This budget that we had put out, this was a 3.84% increase from the current year in which we're standing, and this was well under the state average increase of 4.2%. So this was a good budget that went out. It was a reasonable budget for folks. It's a problem with having laptops. Walk off and lose it. So there were a couple of scenarios that the board asked for, and so this is just as a little primer. When you're taking a look through the charts that are going to come up, right? Level service, that's the one that went out to the voters. That's the LS. They asked for $100,000 less than level service. You know what it would look like if we cut the difference in half between level service and level funded. So that was $357,000. Level funded would mean that we're spending the same amount, or we're asking for the same amount next year as we are currently living with this year. The reason that these are separated is when you hit these three, all of these would require cuts. Right, from what we're currently doing.
Lane.
Yep.
Cuts in programs and cuts like that, right? That's.
The way the board had asked the question, was that we want to take a look at it from the perspective of Act 73.
So we don't know what those, we don't have details on what those cuts would actually.
I can tell you how many people each one would be. Yeah, there's a chart. There's a chart there for it. Yeah. So a couple of things for folks that haven't been in the discussion for a long time. The numbers that we're going to use try to give a definition for them that hopefully is easy to understand, because Vermont does not make anything easy. Tax rates. A tax rate is how much you pay for every $100 of property value that you have. So if you pretend that you have $1,000 home, and the tax rate is $1.22, your taxes are going to be $12.20. Why? Well, there's 10 sets of 100 and 1,000. 10 times this gives you that. The tax rates. The exact amount you're paying for every $100 for value of your home. We tend to look at things in a way that's a little bit easier for people to visualize. We're going to talk about change per $100,000 of property value. So, right, the amount your annual tax bill would increase or decrease for each $100,000 of property value. So if you got a $300,000 home and the change per $100,000 is $200, then the total change for that $300,000 home would be $600. So. And the last piece that we want to talk about, because this will be the last slide, common level of appraisal. It is an adjustment to your tax rate that has nothing to do with education spending. It has to do with how property values change each year. The state wants you to pay the fair market value, taxes on the fair market value of your home each year. It goes out and does a yearly survey. And then what it does is it adjusts that tax rate that you get by this CLA to make sure that you are paying taxes on the full value of your home each year. Okay. If your value of your home goes up, they certainly want to get their money for it. And the important thing here is what's in red, right? CLA has nothing to do with the changes that are being caused by education. And when you look at this, most of the increases that folks, would potentially see under the plans that we're going to talk about and in previous years, anywhere from 75 to 90% of the increases that people have felt have been because of CLA and not because of spending. So it's important for people to realize that. All right. So this is the tax rate slide. So this is the current year. This is the year that we are living in right now. So if you're living in Andover, your tax rate was $1.95. I don't know how I want to call that. $1.96 for every $100 of value of your home. Now, Andover is a special case in our grid here because something happened in Andover that didn't happen in the other towns. What was it? They did a reassessment. And the other towns are set for reassessment. The problem is there's only a limited number of assessors in the state right now, and they have to do pretty much most of the towns. Yeah, so it's going to take a while. So let's use Baltimore as a more common example here. So in this current year, right, $1.28 you're paying for every $100 of value of your property. If we had voted in that level service budget, that tax rate would have been $1.39. If you do level service, and this is really important, if you do level service minus $100,000, it would go to $1.38. How much did you save? About a penny, right? If you took $357,000 out of there, it would go to $1.36. And if you went with level funding, which is a $714,000 cut, it would go to $1.33. So if you went all the way back, and we kept the same amount of money next year in terms of what we're asking for a budget, the savings would be 7.3 cents on your taxes. So that is $73 per 100,000. Savings. Make a little bit of sense. So this piece that I've kind of talked about, we can have a little bit of an impact on people's taxes. We don't have a lot. talk about it in terms of savings per 100,000. Relative to level service, if you cut 100,000 from the level service budget, and that's the one you decide on, that's how much you're going to save per 100,000 of your home. If we assume the average home value in this area is being 385,000, which is what I got off of Google, right? Your annual savings would be $50. If you cut $357,000 from the level service budget, the annual savings for a homeowner in this area would be about $135. And if you did that whole 724, if you kept us at the same budget that we have now, the annual savings would be 281. On that last column there, because we talked about this in terms of, right, we potentially have Act 73 coming and we may have to do staff adjustments because of this. What would each of these cost in terms of staff? That's your number. So for that $50 in annual savings, you'd have to cut one staff member. To get that $281 in annual savings, you'd have to cut 9. And so that's the question that, has to go out to the voters and that they have to answer for themselves. Is cutting 9 staff members worth $281 when your average tax bill is $6,700? So with the highest reduction, right? This is where most people's taxes are. If you've got that $385 home, that's where you'd be.
That's the level funding.
That's compared to so this is where you'd be with the level service. This is where you'd be with level funded, having to cut 9 people.
Somebody has a question.
Well, I'm just wondering how we get average annual taxes. Is that among all of the towns?
Yeah. So what I did is I averaged the tax rates.
Oh.
I figured it would make it would be pretty complex if we were doing it for each, but we could easily do it if people wanted that.
Just wanted to know what it was. Thanks. Yeah.
The other thing I would add there is the properties at the lowest value end. I don't know the exact number, but they do qualify for the homestead tax decrease as well. And so even though it is smaller amounts for those lower valued houses, there's also some relief from those matters.
Yeah. So if you first, we're past tax day now, but if your household income, I believe, is 115,000 or less, right, you qualify for the homestead rebate. And then depending about how much under that $115,000 you are, you would get kind of a sliding refund. The lower you are under it, the more of a refund you would get on your taxes. I think it goes up to like $5,700 on the school side and like $2,700 on the town side. But one of the things, and this is the last slide that I want people to kind of walk away with, that I think is hidden and purposely by the state. If you had the level funded budget, in other words, if you went out and asked for the same amount of money that we are spending this year, so we're asking the exact same dollars down to the cent, in Cavendish, your tax rate's still going up by 25 cents. We're not spending any more in this district, but your tax rate would still go up by 25 cents. In Chester, yours is going to go up by 19. How much of it is due to the CLA changes in property values? Well, in Cavendish's case, 81% of that is due to CLA. Chester's case, 75% of it is due to CLA. And what's even more interesting for folks that haven't been here is because we all pay for each other, you could do dramatic cuts. You could cut your budget in half. You wouldn't be able to run your schools, and you're not going to have a significant change in taxes because we pay for everybody. So if other districts are increasing what they're doing, we pay for it.
This may be a Cheryl question, but if we were going for level services budget, is there a number that is even a little bit lower than the one we previously voted on because of things like retirements or something that didn't cost as much as we thought it might?
Changed in between.
Yeah. I didn't do a deep dive into that.
No. So, okay.
sometimes in those numbers, unfortunately, we would have for a while. If we've got people that are retiring, right, that are high on the pay scale, and we have people that are coming in that we're hiring that are lower on the pay scale, that's the savings. That's sometimes where some of your surplus comes from, because we have to plan for that higher salary because of the time that when we have.
But as you can see, we would have to cut over $100,000 to have.
Right.
Impact. So you can look at those nickels and dimes, they don't really add up.
I'll call it a slush fund, but for lack of a better term, the transportation, do we have anything like that that would cover anything else on this budget?
We have the capital and then there's an asbestos.
And so, yeah, so those reserve funds typically, I think you did it a little different here than in previous years, but typically with those reserve funds, the money is voted by the community to go into them. And so like when you're putting into the capital reserve, you're telling the community this is only going to be spent for.
The Vinehouse budget doesn't change that.
Yeah.
That doesn't-
Yeah, so you could get access to that money, but you'd have to have the town vote to change it to another purpose.
And I understand it wouldn't make much of a difference anyway.
And it's also risky, so you have a.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
These are only funds for transportation.
These funds because there's issues.
Right, is that if you have an emergency or it's very risky.
You don't want to go out to bond if you don't have it. That's. Yeah, but good question. Yep.
The other thing that's in play that hasn't been voted on yet is yield. So it has come out of the house, I believe, and it was 9,170. And I have a outlook here and it goes below that and it goes above that. So it's still TBD. So these are all very much estimates.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, until all the budgets in the state pass, and they get those numbers, and the governor and the legislature decides what they're gonna put aside for the one-time buy down. It's all estimates. They're good estimates.
So although this is jumping ahead just a little bit, we did get information from the towns, is that correct? That an election could be, or a vote could be on May 5th, is that right?
So the May 5th would be the informational meeting. We tried to get May 5th originally as the vote date. The problem was all the towns have to have it on the same day. One town couldn't. And so we moved for the next Tuesday, which was May 12th. That one, they said, yeah, we can do that.
So the next possible vote is May 12th, and the informational meeting needs to be 1 week before that, is that right?
5 days.
At least 5 days, but it could be a week.
Yeah, could be more, can't be less.
Got it.
Because we want to have the education meeting before the vote.
It'll give me time to do a couple of open forums too. So, you're gonna get some people at the informational meetings, hopefully. But the open forums, hopefully they'll draw in some more people with questions. So especially they can understand the minimum impact that they'll have. That'll change their taxes a little bit, but they got to decide themselves if the impact is worth the cost.
Go for it.
So at this informational meeting, is the public allowed to see the same scenario? Is there any reason not to present this? Yeah, but I don't know if they're hearing it because there was always.
But the people, unfortunately, the people that show up are the ones that are typically in support of the budget anyway. Yeah. Getting folks that have already made up their minds is difficult. And so usually what we do with that's when, we do the Facebook postings, at the schools. They're for the schools that have active PPVs. We'll send the information to them to get out. I usually write up a blurb that explains it. It goes out front porch forum, so it goes out on quite a few bits of media. And the biggest trick is that when that happens this time, is anybody, especially those of you sitting here that are supportive of the budget, put it on your Facebook, piggyback it to as many people as that have social media. That's groups in
I have to give you an opinion very quickly, and I know I'm not a board member, I'm not supposed to talk, but it's really hard for me not to talk. I can't, as a Chester taxpayer, and I have the luxury of having a few properties, I can't look Andy Jackins in the eyes and say, I would like you to go, so I saved $281. I can't do that.
I couldn't even work next.
Oh, him and 8 others to save the.
Yeah, and we will be going through a plan of exactly how to have these conversations, and it would be absolutely wonderful to have you involved in that.
Yeah, there's big groups. Esther, that.
And all of us here and all of us who are interested in these.
So just to pull this back, we have 3 things we're trying to do, or maybe 4, under this particular item. The first is to select the budget that we would put forward for the May 12th vote. We talked in a previous meeting that it might help in some of this communication to also indicate which budget we would put forward in the second vote. We don't have to do that, but it means we could say, if it doesn't pass, we would be cutting this much and losing this many people or services. We could decide not to do that, and just have the first one.
What is our?
May
Third,
21st. May 12th.
So I say we just pick one budget tonight, we can pick the 21st.
Right.
So, again,
But yeah, yes, that would be after the vote, but yeah.
it'll be after the vote, we'll know, we'll have a chance to look at everything again and figure out.
Could we pick one budget today and then agree to meet sooner than the 21st if it doesn't pass?
You could, what could happen is if you, and I'm not recommending doing this for, I have my own ideas on it, but if people want to know, I'll let you know. But if you chose a second budget, like a backup budget, what that would do is speed up if it was important when the next vote could occur. Because then you already know what it is. We have a 15 meeting, you approve the warning, and then we're done.
Well, that's why
Figure it out.
yeah, that's why I'm saying if we met early to confirm that, because if we don't know what, it's not gonna be a smooth storm, you guys, but like, we don't know what the vote is gonna look like, and I don't think it makes sense to guarantee that we're gonna put a lower budget out without knowing.
But maybe we can do that as a second, like as a second piece. So first one would be, what's the budget we're putting first for May 12th? Then we could talk about whether we're gonna look at a second budget. Then we'll look at a review of the plan for the public outreach that we very much need to be engaged in before that vote. And then we would finally get to the warning of what we will be doing for the month. So, yeah, go ahead.
Can we circle back to the RIF piece with the teachers union and where we stand on that?
So the RIFs.
This agreement that we were.
The board rescinded its approval of presenting RIFs and offered to the associations, or the associations offered to us, I'm not sure. We agreed in a memorandum that the associations would not pursue action against the board if RIF letters were issued that in the minimum amount necessary for the budget that the board puts forward through as late as June 1st. Is that the date?
Yeah.
So that would be saying if we right now voted for one of these budgets that was a reduction from the level services, we would also right now be issuing RIFs to that number of people who would be required for that budget. And then if it didn't pass, it would be the RIFs for that next. So the only way we can avoid issuing RIF letters now is the level services budget.
Same budget.
Yeah.
If we vote, I'm not suggesting this, but if we vote for a backup budget today, the RIFs would go out with the warning of that if it got to that point, or sooner.
I'd have to go back and read the language. The risks would be in people's hands before that June 1st deadline.
But they would only go out if the first budget failed.
Right, so just because we voted as a backup, they wouldn't have to go out until that vote warning comes up, or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Jerry, were you asking because we don't have anything in writing?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That was
we
my
do.
question. Okay.
We do.
Yes.
Yeah, so the association got us that signed memo, associations got us that signed memo that very next day. And I signed it on behalf of the board because it was in agreement with what the board had asked for.
And my intention behind that question isn't like, they don't rip you guys, right? I just,
Clear
dot our T's and cross our I's, you know.
And I think related to the RIF, we were clear and unanimous that none of the board members were in favor of reducing staff. And we voted to have the RIF notices released because we were following the articles that were outlined in the collective bargaining agreement. And the budgets that we receive, I feel like we're all preaching to the choir here, like the people who are speaking, the educators, we're all on the same page. But the school board only receives a budget. We have no control of the reorganization. We have no control of the staffing, what's cut, what's not. It just lands in front of us, and then we have to perform our fiduciary duty. So the voices are great, and I think the schools need to hear your voices and the leaders in the schools as well, so they know what's important, because we don't have control over the decisions that are made inside that budget.
And we feel awful for you guys, but this is the position that we're in. Fortunately, not one choice we have to take that. So
Somebody wants to speak.
I just have a question, I guess, and obviously, since the master schedule comes out of the guidance office, my office. My question is to the board, like. So on Monday, we kind of talked, I mean, I walked away thinking you guys, that was being easy, you're putting a level service budget because you asked the board, the union to do that. So I thought, I walked away thinking that was done deal, we're gonna come in and either you're gonna say 1,000, 300, 700. That you have the data to make any of those decisions. To prolong it, I mean, we're too much, I mean, budget failed in March. We're now not gonna, about 2 months away, over 60 days. We can't afford. Because we're gonna lose more than just any teachers you decide to bring, if that's the case. And it's really scary that if you are in a position where you have the information from Lane of what the cuts would be, if you were gonna do something else, to at least start that. So you're not trying to get a quorum on if you needed it. I think, I'm a believer it's gonna pass. I knew 3 people that didn't vote that are gonna vote, and I know are in support. I think every one of us know at least one, and there are 30 more that, are in this room. So I'm a believer it's gonna pass. But if it, for some reason it doesn't, we can't go into another vote in June. Or even later. We just gotta keep doing it. I was part of Ludlow, Karen was talking about. I mean, Ludlow, we were voting when the school was closing and all that Act 46 was going. We were almost voting every 3 weeks, if not 2 weeks. That it was boom, boom, because you just had to keep going because everything was changing.
no, I'm in
Whatever
favor.
you can do tonight, I mean,
I don't want to drag this out.
Yeah.
Good night, Marla. Thank you for letting me stay up.
You're welcome, love you.
We got meetings still going.
Yeah, they're on, they started it at 6.
And speaking of, so back to this first point of a budget we would want to put forward on May 12th. This would be the time to make a motion about which of those budgets that we've seen the presentation on that we want to do for that.
I move that we go with a level service budget.
Okay. And that was seconded by Anne. And discussion on putting forward a level services budget for May 12th. I think we've had most of it, but if there's more, let us know. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we've board passed a budget and we have a warning that's all ready to read it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I should read this.
And then seek a motion.
Sorry. Okay, so read it and then seek a motion. The legal voters of Green Mountain Unified School District, consisting of the towns of Andover, Baltimore, Cavendish, and Chester, are hereby warned to meet at the respective polling places on Tuesday, May 12th, 2026, for the purpose of voting by Australian ballot. The business to be transacted includes the following. Shall the voters of Green Mountain Unified School District approve the school board to expend? Yeah. So this is $19,341,997, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The Green Mountain Unified School District estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in a per pupil education spending of $16,060.66, which is 9.98% higher than the per pupil education spending for the current year. And that particular language and what has to go in there is mandated. So really the only thing we're picking is the number. And then this is what would have to be on the ballot.
I didn't think it was 9.9%.
So it's a good question, and this is one of the things we try to explain in like the open forums. The state purposely makes you put a number in there that's going to have a big increase. So the budget increase is from 18 to 19, that's the 3.82. The state makes you refer to it in terms of cost per pupil. So that's the cost per pupil increase. Yeah. And that includes things, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the cost per pupil includes the federal grants, money that's spent on their behalf. Because we used to have to say that on our budgets.
No. So at this point, we would need a motion to put forward that warning.
I move to forward.
Great. And Lois seconds that, and we can also be signing it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're passing it around for signatures. That brings us to the next issue of, do we want to consider a backup budget? Do we want to say, we'll meet as soon after May 12th as possible if we need a backup budget? What?
The only piece out there, and then you guys know the people in the town better. In some cases, if you have a backup budget that's a dramatic cut from the first one, they're gonna say you're trying to hold us.
That's why I said, I don't like the message it sending. We're saying, oh, we know.
Even though that's not
so
the
let's do
intent.
this instead.
I
No,
don't like it.
this is the budget we want. We're not putting forth any other budget.
Nope. If no one moves to do such a thing, we just don't do it.
So if the budget fails, we're back here the next day.
That's good. Okay, this is, I think, one of the things we absolutely need to do tonight. Okay, so now we are on 6 under the budget, which is a review of plan for public outreach. This is one of these individual pieces of paper. This is truly just me writing down the ideas that people were throwing around before at previous meetings. So one of those first outreach things could be us as board members holding community forums. That's a place where we are explaining the information, trying to be Lane and sharing his slides, but that's also a place where the people who are coming to those forums may know us particularly well, and where we can have those conversations. Chester has to be a little bit careful about not having too many board members there, because then you have a quorum. Cavendish doesn't have that problem. And of course, Lane can do community forums as well, but those are people come to him. These community forums can be a little bit more us coming to people. So, Anne, would you be willing to lead the charge on making one of those happen in Chester?
Does that mean I attend it, or do I just plan it?
You plan it. If you want someone else to be like the lead speaker or moderator or all
happy
those
to
kinds of
attend
things.
one from Chester, but I don't want to organize it. But I
Okay.
will attend and do it.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll organize it, but I won't be the, yeah.
That's awesome.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna be out of town there tomorrow. So I am actually gonna go to town hall tomorrow and ask to vote absentee.
Nice. Mike, Donovan? Me? I'm very happy to organize and I can talk in a few. But
Between the ambulance, the select board, now the new committee,
yeah,
the negotiations. I work
I feel you.
24 shift from Saturday night to Sunday night, so.
Yep, I can do that one or even more so ask other people. on how to
I'll
do that.
I don't know
Yeah,
when that'll happen.
I got it.
I have a point of information related to that.
Yeah.
Lane and Anne put such beautiful materials together to recreate something that's already so well, not only thought out, but I mean, so clear to look at. Is it possible to have a few slides, even if you're recording a bit of, you know, the explanation, and that way we all have consistent messaging and can be there in addition to that. Is that possible?
Oh, yeah, and the slides are all in your folders.
Yeah, so you already have
Yeah,
access.
anything you wanna do with them, yeah.
What is the quorum we have to avoid in Chester?
You can't have 6.
That would be all of us.
Yes, and
Okay.
And what if we're the lone wolf in our town? What does that mean?
you can either, well, no, you can't join up with Chester because then.
You can do it alone in a town.
Yeah.
An handover. just
You can,
me.
yep, you can certainly ask other people to help you in Andover.
Okay.
Like either other people in Andover and you're the only board member, or you can ask other board members, hey, I need your help with this Andover.
Wait, so let me just clarify.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
could partner up with someone who's not a board member?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They can do all the organizing and the reserving of space, and then you could present this. Okay. Yeah. Okay, in the past, we have also done sign making events with kiddos and or teens. This can be great in terms of the signs that are actually put outside of schools or other public places, and the kids can actually do those. We have to be, let's see. So employees cannot like lobby for things.
I shouldn't be running around saying vote for the budget. You can say
Exactly.
vote.
Yes, and same for employees, the other employees, right?
But I think that's where
Have to get people to come
the energy should go, not towards yes or no,
Right.
but towards
Just
just out to vote.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to know how we'll partner in this work with all the people who have showed up and have strong feelings.
Absolutely.
What do the unions plan on doing, the
Right.
parent organizations? Teachers had those great shirts, those red shirts, I remember.
Everyone watching.
Yeah.
Like, get out and vote.
Those are great. Great. Yeah, and the Cavendish PTG would organize that sign making as well.
We've had parents come here and for like, put his place.
I think it would also be great to have board members or friends that we find in a rotation send letters to the Chester Telegraph. That can be, those will be different. They can be as numbery or as, let me tell you about this kid, as they want to be.
But we have to say that those are in our individual capacity, not.
That's right. That's right.
Can we also ask the Chester Telegraph to do some extra coverage of amazing things going on in the schools during the days leading up to the vote? So that we get more of the good work out there?
I don't think we can, because I don't think we can pick the angle of that.
More coverage of the amazing things our students are doing. To help increase
Yeah, that would
the
be up to
vote.
them. They have to.
So for everyone, well, I will work on scheduling you the date to get your letter and of course, everybody else is welcome to write letters as well and to put signs on their lawn. The other thing I think we should talk about is in the past, the board did buy some vote on May 12th lawn signs and got those up in a lot of places. Would we have time to do that? Do we want to do that? Yes, some of them. We got some of them.
Some of them are getting pretty rowdy.
Yeah.
And the other thing to remind people, I don't know if Mr. Kendall's online or not, but he says this all the time. It's not our fault. What you did. There's nothing to do with us.
I say this
So
every
the state or anything.
Voting on your budget doesn't help.
I have students here, they representing this.
Expect you to do it now.
Right to the wall. She
Great.
has made buttons representing this motion. Toss, you would like to share them with the board.
Great. Thank you. She has made buttons. For this.
We'll take 3,000. You gotta make some. Press it on. Susie, I'll take one, she can't put it on being a former student.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering if there's a timeline. As much as it's lovely to think about open forums, most of the people that come to them are already gonna vote yes. And there's usually only like 5, 10, 15 people. So I'm just wondering, if we could do something similar to like what Springfield has done in the past when the budget hasn't passed, which is on their own. Like getting something into as many mailboxes as possible with the facts, taking slideshows with a few captions narrated on it that everybody gets.
We did a postcard before.
Yeah, something that just helps to explain whether, it's a trifold, or something.
We got the money.
On the same tone, and it works in some towns, it may not work in others. Is that like Stowe is notorious and did a really good job that the public actually responded to it positively. They would get the voter list and all the home.
Yeah, that's huge.
When's the last time we tried here, the mailer?
It's not,
Did it years ago, didn't we, Lauren?
if it's just information, it's something we could do. If it's telling we want you to vote yes, then it's not.
No, this was just information.
For information.
I think some of it is just like.
For the
we
bond.
had Whatever it was, 27%. 37 voting. So some of it is just like alerting.
Get out the
What
vote.
it is and then doing.
Yeah, we have to make a motion to do something like that?
No, this is,
Okay.
we would for mailing, for paying for the bond signs, things like
And
that.
the mailings aren't going to be cheap either. A
Well,
stamped
that-
postcard
yeah.
cost 69 cents. And it did, I understand the rates are going up sometime this week or next week. So, and if you've got 2,500 voters in Chester alone, that's a pretty serious expense. I'm not sure that we can return. Considering, again, if we only need 37 people more to come. I understand that the forum will generally draw people who want to support it, but we want them to go and vote this.
Well, and the people who are going to those votes, you gotta tell them what people.
Lauren?
Yeah, that would be a waste of.
Hold on, Penny. I'm sorry, that's okay.
Just a suggestion that you can ask it's that sign that is on Main Street that says slow down.
Yes.
And I believe that it's not the towns, otherwise I would say you can ask the select board. But I think you need to ask the police department, because I think it belongs to them, and they might be willing to put something up that says vote on May 12th.
Yeah.
And what about on the Chester Elementary School message board?
Or on all boards.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any school-wide events coming up where you could, I mean, I don't want to volunteer your time because I know you give so much time already. But where a board member could sit at a table with a sign that says, ask me questions about the budget. Because I think sometimes asking people to come to you is hard. I've heard that you get a limited number, it's often the same people. But what if we showed, people showed up at events and made presence known and had those conversations? Would that be a way to outreach and maybe connect with more voters?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done that at our transfer station. It's kind of fun. I mean, all.
Also Friday night.
I also ended up with taking on weight.
Friday night of Legion. Don't do it again.
And yeah, and I really think that the like person to person is gonna be huge. Like we all know people who didn't vote and we all know people who voted no. And we as individuals have a better chance of knowing why that is and making some connection than anything else. But yeah. Other than spending a whole lot of money on it, I really do think it's all of the above. Yeah.
I just want to say, like, I live in a town that Micro Biggs in, and their budget didn't pass the first time. And I had no idea. Like, I asked them, he's like, oh, it passed. I'm like, I obviously would have voted for it. I had no idea when it happened. Like, so there really is just this piece of like communicating it and like seeing signs, because I think there are a lot of people out there that would absolutely support a budget that just don't know. Like, if you always go the same way home and there was not a sign on that road, you just don't see it. So like signs on the green are great, but like if your route is always from like Springfield down Church Street, then you turn right, it's like you just don't see it.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to make sure people are mindful of like where can we put signs in a way that's not like schools are great, town is great, but like where else can we put signs? Like are there any other community, any other organizations that we can ask, like the churches, can we put a sign that just says, like the same signs that we have in front of the school? Reaching out to these community leaders would be really great. Just visibility is important.
Yeah, so could we find out what the cost would be for, say, 50 and 75 vote on May 12th lawn signs?
And this is something we can just do. That's typically what we do with, putting together.
Because I actually got
really cheap.
Buying a new bus.
Just saying. Yeah.
Put the signs on the bus, is that what you're saying?
Right on the back of the bus. The people who were having to go slow behind the bus.
I can do these.
Okay. It's really hard. So yes, we will working on organizing, and this really does need to be an everyday thing. It cannot wait until May 10th. The same kind of energy that has gotten people here and kept us here, it's got to be every day.
We're allowed to communicate about our outside. Are we not able to?
Maybe.
Like, how are we allowed to communicate? Like, if we're having.
Yeah,
Like, once we set this,
yes.
it's just like on our own,
Yeah,
like.
no, like send the information to me.
Okay.
And I can send any sort of informational, organizational stuff is not open meeting law, so. But if you have any questions, send it only to me and then I can compile it and say, this is the list of what people are doing. Yeah, or we desperately need somebody at this thing at this time and who can go do that. Either one of those is fine.
I think you have teachers too who are willing to do those same kind of things. So you're welcome to put like with me, I'm sure you could put Jen in an email and we can find people that can go and whether it's knock on doors or
Yeah, you guys can be talking about that.
yes. We have a vote on May 12th, the school board budget. We'd love to see you there. Boom, next door. You know.
Okay, so we still have other new business items. One of those is discussing board education needs. The other is hearing community member complaint and concerns, which I think that we should do.
I agree.
So Randy, if you would, are you up for joining us? Sure. Talking to the group? Fantastic.
To speak now, or do I have to wait till public comment?
Nope, this is, we are inviting you to talk about two separate things, so I would like to keep them a little bit separate.
Well, he talked about the first one already. Right, I understand.
Yes. So the first one was, there was a letter of complaint about using the Telegraph as a paper of record. And so the board can hear your views and any evidence on that.
The evidence in my meeting for that is money for the first part of it. we're paying 2 paper of records and we really don't need to. B, if they invent such things as policies to adhere to, why do we not adhere to it? If just the Telegraph is not an official paper or record, why are we paying? Don't understand. Nobody really seems to understand that. So my understanding, I guess, then, if we're going with that route, is it open for any other publication, anybody who writes columns or anything, to be our paper of record as well? That in itself goes against the policy. Policies are important. We just broke a lot of policies a few minutes ago. A lot of discussion was supposed to come out in public comment, and it was rampant. Policy is important. It should be important to all of you. I don't know what else to say at this point in time. You have all my information in the papers and the complaints that I submitted. You can find your findings one way or another. I believe them to be in violation. I believe them to be biased. And I don't believe it's fair to the community to have a biased paper represent us all. So I guess that's up to this board. You haven't used them for a while. I don't know if they're officially a paper of record for the school board or not. But I present for the reasons that I submitted. If you all read any of it, those are my reasons.
And as a second issue, we would also like to hear from you about the letter or a presentation of any evidence of violation of State Act 152, an act relating to non-discriminatory school branding, and TRSU policy E5, non-discriminatory mascots and school branding.
Yeah, it's come to my attention through different students that have gone here, different students that are here, parents, because I talk to a lot of them because they don't come here. So I ask questions to them, or if they have concerns, they'll ask me if I'll mention something or find out information about it. Now that policy, Act 152 and our E5 policy strictly prohibits targeting one group or another, whether it's sexual orientation, race, color, religion, or whatever. That is through the state and that is through our policy. And it's come to my attention that there are banners and flags pointing to certain groups like that. And if you're going to have this policy and try and remove or did remove one certain thing, why is it open to others? Now, I asked if we would have a walkthrough with 2 different administrators. I don't know if that has been done yet or not. To find out, A, are we in compliant, or B, are we not compliant with the policies? Pretty quiet.
So if board members have questions.
Just to clarify, what do you think is up that shouldn't be up? Is it that something was taken down that was up?
The conversations that I have had to do with LGBTQ students, and it had to be with Black Lives Matter. Now, I don't know if they're still up. I don't know if they were up. It's been a couple of years since I've been through this school, but a lot of different students and parents have asked why. So I'm asking the question, why? Is it there? Are we following policy or not? And once again, it's all about policy. I don't have a problem with any group out there. Love them all. You're all entitled to your own opinions, your own beliefs. Great. Everybody has got input.
You believe it breaks policy E5?
Yes.
Okay. Just clarify.
Yeah. Because it's working. And it comes from the debate that we had with the chieftain. That blew into a whole thing it never should have done. And a lot of these policies came out of it, or kind of directly, indirectly. Those are big words. And like I say, I talked with Senator Dick McCormick, who came up with the E5. And I talked to him face to face. And I said, I got a problem with the direct and indirect wording. And what your findings were for the chieftain name or title. And he said, we know exactly what it meant. We had no problem with it. And he said, sometimes with the wordings we put, we make mistakes and we look for the public to correct us on them. That indirect and direct wording was a terrible thing to put in there because it includes so many different things. But yet nobody cared to pinpoint that or object to that. But we stopped at a certain location. We didn't go beyond that. The chieftain could have gone to Green Mountain because we were introduced as Green Mountain chieftains. They could go to the school because that's where the chieftains were. So we really need to look at these policies we come up with and adhere to. The TRSU board does a fine job when they have their board meeting. They're very precise, they're very motivated, they don't dwell on situations. I suggest going to some of them and really listening how they run their boards, because it's a night and day thing. And I'm sorry to have to be talking like this. I don't like it, but I have to say it. So, my question is, are we in compliant? Did we go look through the rooms?
We respond to these complaints.
So that's what this is an opportunity for him to specify what that complaint is and for us to ask questions or for him to ask questions. We would then be making some decision about whether we are, taking this information into account. Or coming up with another finding or deciding not to do anything, but responding to that complaint as a please.
Are you was the request to walk through each teacher's room to see what they have in their classroom?
Through each school.
Okay.
Because the questions are being asked says we are not in compliance. And I don't know because I haven't walked through every school.
So.
Can we talk about the definition that's in the policy? Because.
What I was about, yeah.
Okay.
So it's policy F2. We changed the codes to match, the mandated codes from VSBA. In definition 3, which is what this policy is all about, means any name, symbol, or image used by a school as a mascot, nickname, logo, letterhead, team name, slogan, motto, or other identifier. What is potentially being put up in classrooms does not meet that definition. This policy does not apply. I do not believe.
What is other identifiers?
Or other identifier. So you go back to, let me see, the wording's in here. Let me get to the actual definition. Race, creed, color, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, person or group of persons, or any person or group of persons or organizations associated with the repression of others. But again, the purpose of the policy is about mascots, nicknames, logos, letterhead, team names, slogans, mottos, and other identifiers.
So what's other identifiers?
Maybe a cheer at a game that is repeated, that people cheer or something like that. I can identify apparel.
But it's specifically, and I'm happy to get a legal opinion on it.
So I was going to say,
The policy is specifically around mascots and that type of branding.
Is it though? So that would mean that we are entitled to hang up anything in any of our classrooms specifically to one group or another.
The
or all
board currently does not have a policy that speaks to that.
So that we
Is
could-
my understanding.
We can.
Right.
Okay, well, that clarifies that.
But it's a good question that you raise. So I will run it past legal to see if it applies beyond that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess you've answered my questions and the questions that people have asked me, so. I guess that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're talking about the other thing at all?
We don't have to. Do you have questions about that or?
I don't have a question about it, but I do have a wondering for my fellow board members. The press is very important and having coverage of what goes on in our communities is important. And I found some of the language, particularly in this article, disparaging. And if I had changed MAGA trolls to a different group of individuals and used that term in the context of that sentence, it's very pointed and it is derogatory. It is not reporting. It's a definite position piece. And that could happen to any group and any philosophy or opinion.
So I think one one piece there is this is an op-ed, like it is an opinion piece.
It is an
And
editorial.
it's editorial, thank you. So it's not intended
Editorials
to
come
be
under free
reported.
speech.
Is this open to everybody again, or
Well, I do.
I
have
raised my
another-
hand. Thank you very much.
it's public comment time? I thought this was my.
It's public comment, yeah, close.
You know, for him, public comment.
Yeah.
When the, what was it called? The Miles and Bailey face off. I'm just wondering why the response that Mr. Miles gave that, you know, I want to give my response in person wasn't just put verbatim. I feel like his response was not included.
Thank you. That's all I
It
want.
was reasonable.
Yeah, so I just, I'm not even sure.
You saw the
But in
conversation
that,
back and forth.
but still, in that case, it's the newspaper's job to make that decision.
I realize that, but this was being used for people to get information about a public vote. And even if Mr. Miles had said something crazy, then put his crazy thought there.
Absolutely.
But he just said, I want to answer in person, and I'm concerned that just, why wouldn't it be reported as it was said?
And that's the bias. One of the examples that I see of bias. It had no, no bad meaning to it, but it did explain something on my part that, yeah, maybe I have an issue with Telegram. Okay, as opposed to no comment. I never said that. I never said that. Ever.
Can I just clarify? So when these where it says decline to
So
answer,
decline, yes.
and what you had said was I would be happy to answer in person, and that was interpreted as decline to answer. Clear?
Read the first part in the parentheses, the very first part.
So I would just like to take this back to the complaint that this board can hear is about using the Chester Telegraph as a paper of record. And it, like, we can, both as board members and as public members, we can have different views on the actual paper and what it's publishing itself. But there isn't anything that isn't really relevant to the question of whether it is a paper of record for the board. And it is, now I'm sharing my opinion, not that piece. It is serving the needs. It is serving exactly what we asked the board, the paper to do in publishing the pieces that the board sends to it.
The bias part comes with it also with the article of Bailey and me, and specifically asking voters not to vote for me. Not that I did anything wrong, but printing that one article against me for no reason at all. What do you call that?
Was a letter to the editor.
At least
It wasn't that you could have written a letter to the editor too. It was not something that was written by the Telegraph.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, to me,
Yeah, okay. We gotta bring this back under and.
Mr. Muller, I know you're gonna speak, please. Go ahead. I'll wait.
to me, it was wrong. It was wrong for them not to print what I wanted. And I went back and forth with them, asking him to please print what I asked for each of the 6 questions to give it clarity and let the voters judge. And they did not do that. For what reason? I don't know. The reason they printed that article to the editor about me specifically, not to vote for me, was harmful.
Well, and there was serious spin after that I think harmed you in the election, and it shouldn't have happened.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Can you define paper of record for me?
So we need to post the agendas and announce the meetings.
The warnings that.
Yeah. And
That we just did.
yeah. And there's a description of how that needs to be done. It includes things like hanging it in the town halls, which probably nobody actually sees. The spirit of it is really about making the information available. So it's on our website, and the Chester Telegraph is one of the places that we use to get that information out there. And the Vermont Journal.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Right, even if they weren't a paper of record, all that stuff still in front of it.
Right.
we're just trying to get out information to people, and people might not pick up the Vermont Journal or read it when they get it in their mailbox. Which is unfortunate because they go reading it. So they may get the Telegraph, which I get the Telegraph, so I get it twice, so.
Sure.
Let's see.
And I do
And
see
if
different,
somebody else has to be a paper of record and they were podcast for something, why we would.
You want me-
People we can reach, the better off we're gonna be.
My understanding is we don't need one at all. Correct?
I had legal look at this when this question came up a while back. The requirement for warnings is, that they do have to get sent to a local news source. But in terms of the school board, you don't have to have an official paper record.
Right.
As long as when we're doing this, it goes to news source. That said, there is some benefit of, sending it consistently to the same place because people know where to look.
Sure.
Yeah.
and I do understand the differentiation. Thank you for that. Was an editorial piece. And I'm still disappointed that a voter in the district for an important election was silenced.
Can I say something?
Yes.
If you don't want me to, I will.
No, go
I'm
for it.
perfectly happy to be
That-
silent.
Anyway.
That was a feature that we do at every election. Every election, we have a set of questions. We send them out in advance. People can answer them. Everyone knows that's happening. And he agreed to it. He's done it before. He's participated in that before. I took pictures of him at the candidates night. It's normal. Everyone else, Jerry Wood, then fill the job. That's what you do in an election. To simply say, you can come to the Fullerton at some particular time for a gathering, it's going to be there and get your questions answered. Not questions we ask, but any other questions you could still. But we decided that that was not the way the piece was structured. It has been structured for many years. So we said no. And we said decline to answer the question, not decline to answer anything at all. If I said, where do you live? You said my dog's name is Blue. And then I said, well, how much do you make a year? And you said, my dog's name is Blue. It's the same answer to every question, but you're not answering the question. And that was the point of the art. So that's the editorial decision.
Yes, go ahead.
I understand what you're saying. But being he is a candidate, right? And you guys know him, and he's done it before. What is the harm whether you just write that there, or did you suggest to Randy, hey, we can just put this in as a letter to the editor if that's what you would like to publish?
Randy can always send us a letter to the editor.
I mean, during that conversation.
I don't know what happened in my conversation. I was not a part of that. But what I can tell you is we've done this for many years, and I would see it personally as an insult to you and every other candidate who answered the questions. If one candidate just basically said, I'm not going to answer the questions, I'm just going to tell you to come here.
So Randy's speaking to bias during that election, my understanding, because I wasn't asked for comments or questions during that election. No one outside of a certain group of people who were running for seats was approached by you guys and asked for comment or question.
We do that, that coverage in contested elections. If someone is running and no one's running against them.
But those were contested elections.
Right.
And I wasn't asked questions.
Sure you were. You sent in answers to us.
No, I mean in other articles that you guys were publishing during that election, there was comments from a whole other group of candidates that were published.
Are you talking about articles, or are you talking about letters to the editor? Are you talking about?
So like during the election itself, day of the election, there was, you guys asked candidates for comment, which were published. I wasn't asked a question. Randy wasn't asked a question.
I don't remember doing that at all.
I can point you to those specific.
Please.
Yeah. And I'll-
Send me,
I'll
send me an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because I think it's relevant in acting on behalf of the district as a part of my responsibility. There was an article that was put in the paper after a Freedom of Information Act request that stated that the district had violated the the Public Information Act, right? You were
Public
requesting
records.
it, yeah, public records. You put an article in the paper that said we had violated that. I had sent you an email, a very nicely worded email with the law, and said, hey, we provided stuff almost instantaneously that you asked that was within our scope of grabbing.
I remember that. I have to go back.
But the law allows for up to 10 days if the information is not in my direct control within that building. And I sent the required notification to you.
I don't think direct control. is
I sent the required notification to you. I asked you to please, at least correct the article. You never responded. You didn't correct the article despite the fact that you had said the district had violated that regulation when it had not, and that is of concern to me. And I never got a response. I never heard from you again after I sent that email asking.
Caitlin, and then we're
I'm
gonna wrap
not
up.
sure if we're talking
Yeah.
about paper record anymore.
We are. It's
Bias was the question.
Bias.
Bias is the topic. Yeah.
But I do think we should wrap this up in terms of, if the board would like to, if anybody would like to make a motion to do something differently, I suppose that we could. But the actual views of what is, being written and of the organization are not things the board gets to decide. Okay. This last piece here is about board education. And then we do have another public comment. So the board education piece, there is policy governance, which is a system of operating that the board has adopted and includes how we are approving or not both the individual pieces of individual policies within that, and then the interpretations of it, and then planning to receive the feedback or the reports about whether we're in compliance with those different pieces. There are different forms of policy governance education specifically. There also, in terms of board education, there are definitely opportunities to learn about Robert's rules. And if we are deciding at some point that, yes, we need to follow Robert's rules, not have anybody speaking other than board members who have the table and are acknowledged, we can do that. Then it would be helpful if additional people knew Robert's rules really well. And so there are board training opportunities for that. There are also training opportunities specific to open meeting laws, which is really important, especially in terms of understanding what can and can't happen in executive sessions, and about the documents and communications we're using. So I think those are the three major areas: the kind of policy and Robert's rules, the policy governance, and the other thing that I said. Open meeting law, yes. Yeah. Are there other pieces of education, of board education that people are interested in specifying? Yes.
We need some board education on vacancies. We don't have one right now.
What's that?
It comes out.
Pertain to the whole business. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a policy on that, so potentially bringing that back, and if that policy needs additional clarification, that would be more of an agenda item, I think.
That isn't just policy, it's also statute.
Yes. Yeah. Making sure that our policy follows this that way.
That's basically what it is. And I just think it's something that since there's 7 members, that it would be really helpful doing that. I would like to say that I know Ann and I think somebody else has signed up for a 2 sessions that are coming up on Zoom, May 7th and I don't remember exact dates.
It's like onboarding stuff for the BSD.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half each session and it's for new members and it covers, I don't know if it'll cover all of what you just mentioned, but whatever it covers, it's going to be helpful.
Framework that folder that we have they received that yet?
Yes.
We have,
Yeah, the DSB tree, DSB tree.
yeah, yeah, right, that's what it is, yes. We received information from the board, a new member packet. We also got one from the state of Vermont. So.
I went to those trainings. They were very helpful.
Very, yeah. Anything else on that?
Okay, that brings us to our final public and board comments. Are we all talked out?
And thanks to everyone who came in public comment.
And I would just like to say to the superintendent and to the admin, I know we're not your only board and you guys do a ton of work and I just want to, give thanks for everything you do because I know your schedules are jam packed. And that goes for everything.
Thank you, I'll make sure to show.
Cheryl deserves a note.
Yes.
Yes.
Better her than.
It's amazing. Our next regular meeting is May 21st. Hopefully we will have a passed budget, in which case we will not need to meet before May 21st, but
Did you set your information?
yes. The informational meeting will be on May 5th. Oh, got it. Because that is an actual board meeting?
It's a community meeting.
Okay.
So it's by the community for the community to. It might, again, just to be sure, because there's so many laws out there in Vermont, some nuance that I'll double check tomorrow.
And it seems like it needs to be warned anyway, so.
Yeah.
So that'll be.
Still listed the warning.
Did that happen again?
It'll be, yeah. The rules, if I recall, are you try to do everything in the same place, same voting location, same. Hold the meetings, yeah.
Thank you.
But I'll double check.
Okay, we also have an executive session item here.
Well, before we go on to that, it says that agenda items for the next meeting. I'd like to raise on that. I have people very interested in putting on, I guess, call it a presentation to the borough about bullying and reducing, eliminating bullying, which has been one of the members coming with me, a member. And I'm informed that the whole presentation, including questions and answers, would take 35 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, so I think discussion with the board, if that's something that we want, could be an agenda item. Not the actual presentation at this point.
Well, that would be the person who, that would be people coming here and talking about their experience with it. And yes, and that would be back and forth with the board to answer questions and maybe it involves at least one student who's been subject to it here. And
yeah, so I think the
CP representative.
You have to put it as an agenda item to
Yes, that's-
create, to be
for the
able to.
board to state whether it wants to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it'll take a little, a sequence of meetings, but
how do I get that on the agenda?
you already did.
Oh, okay. So, but if I get that on the agenda, does that mean that they can?
Yeah.
21st.
So what you're getting on the agenda is an item that the board will discuss if we want to invite this group, and we'll ask you to fill us in about.
Okay. Thank you. And I need to know the process. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I do think that leaves only the executive session. Okay, yep, please.
Under old business, for some reason on both this list, this list, And definitely in the packet, all the things that the board members do, the committees, the one for facilities is disappeared.
Yeah, and that's only because we haven't had a facilities committee. So
It
if
was on the list for several
we
months
did,
and
and
it just disappeared.
we talked about the fact that it hasn't met or done anything
It was right here.
like in a long time. So if you would like to consider having a facilities committee again, we can definitely do that. And
I'd be glad to be on it.
okay. So we will add that to the agenda for the next item.
It was on the first meeting I was here.
Yep.
It was on this.
It was.
And then it disappeared.
Yeah, no, absolutely it was. I'm not saying it wasn't.
Names on the list.
Well, all the people who were on
Yes.
it are no longer on.
Yeah.
That's that.
And so when we talked about it on the which meeting was it? Yeah, the March 19th regular meeting. That's where it was said that we weren't gonna go on with a facilities committee because,
I'll go for that.
okay, it
Because
is in there.
it was all part of the old business that we haven't done yet.
Yeah. But we talked about which committees were gonna continue and which ones weren't. But it's perfectly fine. We can put it back. There's no trying to get rid of it. It's just we have so few, seems like few people to staff with these. But we'll put it on the agenda and it can go back under old business since it was on there before.
Great.
Okay, I think it's time for a motion for executive session and.
Are we inviting? Just me. You gotta say that.
Yes.
I move that the board enter into an executive session as allowed under 1 VSA 313. To discuss a dismissal action regarding probationary employees, and I would ask the board to invite the superintendent.
And that means a second. Lois seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we could have a very short break, short recess while we get. Yeah.
All right, you're good to go. I move to adjourn.
And so we are, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we have adjourned, it's 9:40.
To order copies of this program, please call 802-885-6248. This program was created using equipment of SAPA TV. The views and opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily those of SAPA TV or its staff. Visit us online at www.sapatv.org. Thanks for watching.